What's going on, everybody? Welcome in. We're going to start at 6 minutes and 30 seconds.
Whatever happened there was good.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome into Never Lag. I'm one of your hosts, Levi, joined by the man who fell in the pit, Zach, and storm blessed himself, Calvin. We're back. We're back, as foretold. We have in our last episode, previously on Never Lag Gaming, we discussed what would it have been, July and August? Yeah, because this is going to be September and October. We're making this really confusing by bundling it into 2 months, but life's been really busy for everybody. So that's
November about September and October.
November about September and October. Previously, it was
of 2024.
September about July and August. So it never gets old. It never gets old. If you ask us, don't ask our viewers. We're going to talk about. Now I've forgotten. September and October. Holy crap! This year is flying by. Which honestly, September and October had the huge games. The huge games all came out in September and October. I mean, for the most part. Well, I guess actually we can get into a debate. Maybe none of the game of the years came out in September and October. We'll get into it. But how have you guys been over the last 2 months as we descend further into fall? And I guess is it winter yet? No, it's still fall.
No, it's still fall. It's still technically still fall. That was
overloaded with gaming.
Chris.
Yeah. I like that you didn't even mute yourself. You're just like, this needs to be heard by all, and it did.
ASMR.
Oh, it's a good sound.
It is a good sound. I mean, it's been good. Hollow Knight Silksong kind of took over my life for most of September, a little bit of October. We had Yote. I've been playing that a little bit. There's a few games I've been playing. I feel like I can't keep up with anything. What about you guys? Yeah, I think you've been playing the same things.
That's for sure. That's for sure.
Yeah,
we should have some of the same games.
Yeah, I feel like it was too much game to play all at once, and it was a little overwhelming.
Too much game.
But good problem, maybe, perhaps. Who knows?
Maybe, perhaps. Yeah, I feel that. I feel like 2025 has definitely been... This has been coming... We've talked about this for a few years at this point, but man, it just feels like 2025 is the year where it finally was the tipping point for me, and just like there's too much game.
Yeah.
Too much game, not enough mental bandwidth, not enough energy.
Time,
all of it, and life gets busy, and then there's slower parts of life and busier. So maybe it's just been a busier year, or a combination of the two. But man, I just feel like this year it's just like it's actively difficult to get through the games that on paper I want to get through these games, like not in just like I'd like to, but like these like should be maybe top 10 games of the year, or category 1
hitters.
Type games. And I just can't find the time or the right mental state to get into some of them for the year. But hopefully, I mean, man, we only got 2 months left. So honestly, at this point, we'll see about Death Stranding 2 and some of these other ones. But
I know.
We can. Do you guys want to start with Silksong? I mean,
let's do
holy
it.
moly, we've all played and beaten Silksong.
Yeah. So
I mean, we were 8 months through the year before we even knew that was before we even could conceive that would be a possibility.
I know. Yeah. So I have, I guess, some spoilers ahead, but
yeah, I mean, let's just do you want to do a 2-part, like minimal spoilers, or just all spoilers, because it doesn't really matter that much, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think any of us are going to go into. Oh, there goes Calvin. Okay, we're at the 10-minute mark.
Still shows him here.
Yeah,
he popped right back in. Is it just a glitch, or is he actually gone?
His little dot went yellow, which I don't know what that means, but I know he's not here visually or audibly. It seems like he's having connectivity issues.
Yeah, that doesn't bode well for
the rest of the episode.
Yeah, I guess we'll give him a minute. Offline. Now he's back. Hey, what's going on?
What's up?
Am I back?
You're back. Did you have to actually like re-click the link and log back in?
No, I was getting ready to. I was getting ready to close this out, and right as I did, it like reconnected. So I never did actually leave on my end.
All right.
All right.
Well,
is that going to screw with the recording?
I'll just try and
nobody knows.
Yeah.
But you can just stitch it together.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So what were you saying, Zach? Where were you starting off with Silksong?
Yeah. So I was gonna say I don't think we're gonna go into maybe super specific story spoilers because I haven't even finished Act 3, but we might get into some light structural spoilers, things like that. So there's your warning. I think like one of those spoilers being that it's a 3-act game instead of a 2-act game, or maybe another way to put it is that after Act 2 you roll credits, and that's like beating the main game. But then you can do a bunch of extra stuff to unlock the third act. So I got partially into Act 3, and that's kind of where I left off. So I haven't finished all of Act 3, just FYI. But I rolled credits on it, and I think you guys.
Yeah, I was trying to. Yeah, you did. Right? I thought for some reason you had finished it because there was the drama of getting to Act 3, and then you were kind of digging it. But then I do remember you got fatigued by something. What was fatiguing you?
I had a lot of issues getting Act 3 to actually unlock, and it was so unclear to try and figure out like what you needed to do to get it to actually register. And there wasn't even a super clear guide online. Like there was no super clear instruction of these are all the things that will absolutely trigger it. And so, it was just, you had to do all the bounties on the boards across the different towns. And I was, they didn't all show up for me. So I do them, and then you'd have to wait a while. Sometimes you have to wait and come back.
It was early enough that everyone thought they knew the answer, but no one really did know the answer.
Right, because there were some additional things, like you had to find Chakra or whatever that bug's Chakra name. You had to find them you had to follow them to a certain point. Like there were multiple quests you had to see to
finish her quest line. Yeah.
You had to find enough fleas and progress the flea troop to their end destination. And just like a lot of different disparate things that weren't explicitly linked in any way to triggering Act 3. So it was just a lot of kind of mundane, tedious stuff. And
before we
barriers,
dig too much into some of this, that is going to be a big talking point, obviously, with what you dealt with and some of the feelings we have. Maybe we just go around real quick and like I said, here in 2025, we have played and finished Silksong mostly, and we waited. What is the official count? 7 years?
I don't know exactly. I think it's around there.
I think it's.
And this game started as a DLC, and then it was in development heaven forever, apparently.
Development heaven.
And so I'm just curious, where do we all land with this? I think we're all coming to it kind of from different perspectives as well. What would you give it out of 10? And just your box statement, I guess.
I'll go first with the caveat that I haven't obviously finished Act 3, so maybe that would change something, but I'd give it a 9 out of 10. I mean, Hollow Knight was like a perfect game. I don't really have any criticisms for Hollow Knight. Whereas Silksong, I have a few different frustrations, and I got burnt out at a couple of points, which is, evident by the fact that I decided to walk away. I'll probably go back and finish Act 3 someday, but that being said, I still think a lot of pieces of it are a masterpiece. It still has that Team Cherry quality across a lot of different, axes. It is an incredibly immersive game. And as much as I was still being frustrated by it, it kept me coming back to it. And so I do think it's like an incredible game. I'd give it a 9 out of 10.
Okay. What about you, Cal?
The out of 10 system's a little weird for me. It's a very confused 10 for me. And when we
give it a 10,
yeah, but it's complicated
with a question mark.
I mean, I can explain it. I don't know if we want to do that now or later.
You're all over the place, man.
I think a confused 10 is a 9.5.
I think he's really confused about what 10 how much of what percentage of 10 is. I think that's what he's confused about.
No, I like I said, I can explain my
76%.
My reasoning, but I don't know if we're doing
well,
that.
Hold on. The funny part here is that in discussions before this weeks ago, I jokingly, facetiously was like, what do you give it out of 13? and bro says 8, and I was like, dang. So you're like at like a 6. You're like a 6 out of 10, and he kind of was like. He kind of was like, "No, maybe it's a little higher." But you were also kind of
Levi,
like, "Yes."
You're mixing up games. This was not about Silksong.
Oh, is that the other one?
Yes.
Spoilers.
Yeah.
I swear we were talking.
No,
You're right,
we did this conversation was not about Silksong.
Well, it was lower than 10, but I want to hear kind of your thoughts then on how it's a confused 10.
It is. It's hard to explain, but naturally comparing Hollow Knight versus Silksong,
right.
I've tried to figure out, in my opinion, which I like better, which is a better game. My final consensus, again, kind of confusing or whatever, but I think that Hollow Knight is a more perfect game than Silksong. I think that Hollow Knight has little to no flaws, whereas Silksong is a more flawed game, a more imperfect game, and yet I still think Silksong is a better game. And so Hollow Knight's a 10 out of 10, and even though Silksong has more flaws, I like it better. So
Hollow Knight
give it lower than
no flaws other than being worse.
It's hard to explain. The highs are higher. The highs are higher for me in Silksong, even though it has flaws.
So that's all that means is that you found the highs higher in Silksong, which
if anything, I guess
I still find that curious, but
if anything, I guess if we're still working at a 10, I'd have to move Hollow Knight down, but I don't know. It's a very hard thing. It's sort of illogical.
If I gave you a list of 2 games and these 2 games were Silksong and Hollow Knight, you would put Hollow Knight below Silksong, you think?
Which is okay. You're allowed, and also you can give something a 10 and it have issues. 10 just means for you it's at a 10.
This is America. You can do whatever you want, Calvin.
It's very close. It is not like they're very close, but it's just kind of a weird thing where I fully feel like Hollow Knight is almost a flawless game. And even though Silksong is not, I still think it is the better game for me.
Yeah.
And so it's
it's kind of weird. I guess
it's
to bridge off of that, we have had discussions in the past, and I'm positive this is about the right game. But that you kind of weren't quick to love Hollow Knight when you originally played it. And it wasn't till maybe you got further. You also picked it up and put it down a lot and restarted it a lot. And so I do wonder if that affects your view of Hollow Knight.
And I do
versus Silksong. Whereas this game you came into having finally finished Hollow Knight and loving the concept now and getting a brand new game to explore and open up and getting to just thoroughly enjoy Silksong in that headspace that maybe you didn't get to do with Hollow Knight.
Absolutely.
Not that Silksong can't just be better,
but that is true with Hollow Knight. My first experience with Hollow Knight was very tainted. I tried it the first time and I kind of bounced off of it. I made it maybe 30% of the way. I bounced off of it, didn't love it. I was frustrated a lot, wasn't enjoying it. Came back a year later, restarted the game, and I finished it all the way through that time. But it still took about maybe halfway through the game before I would say I was loving the game. So about the first half of the game, I was still kind of tentative and feeling out where I was. And then by the end of it and retroactively, looking back, it's became an all-time favorite game. Whereas with Silksong, I went in.
I was telling him one of these days he does need to replay Hollow Knight and kind of see if he can.
And that might change
the time
things.
Is right. But for me, I think I land. I don't know. I really have to think on it some more. There's been some distance. I mean, now we're about a month plus from when I finished the true ending in Act 3. Yeah. I started doing a run for some of the trophies where you have to beat the game in a certain amount of time or whatever, and then I kind of fell off of it.
Yeah,
doing some other things. But now it's been a few weeks. There's room for this game to appreciate in my estimation, and I think it can only appreciate in my estimation. I don't think it will depreciate with time, but I'm between an 8.5 and a 9. I think I agree with the sentiment of basically what both of you have said. I think the highs are really good in this game, and it still has that Team Cherry polish and and some of that that special sauce that Team Cherry put into Hollow Knight that literally, reinvigorated the entire Metroidvania genre for the past decade. That's all still here. Like, I don't look at this game and feel like, oh man, what happened? What happened to Team Cherry? No, like it's here. This is, and for most of the start of the game, I was thinking like, man, they did it. They Tears of the Kingdom this business. Like, this is going to happen. This is going to be better than Hollow Knight. And ultimately, I fell under that with some of the things later. The second half of the game, I feel, has some pain points and just too many things that I'm just like, I just don't like this as much as what you did in Hollow Knight, whether it's overly complex or just maybe some weird game design that I don't agree with. There's enough pain points in this game where, like Calvin said, for me, Hollow Knight is just an even 10 across the board with everything. There's just almost nothing that I could sit down and critique, which is my favorite thing to do. And I just wouldn't have anything to say,
Yeah.
But with Silksong, I have things to say. So
my slight critique is kind of what Calvin was saying, is like, I do think the start of Hollow Knight is a little slower than it needs to be, in the sense.
And I have heard that was
my experience too. But the game overall like delivers so much across the board that it still is like, I don't really know what you'd do differently, even with that sentiment.
And I'm not really sure exactly what it is about Hollow Knight's start. Is it just the direction, or is it the blandness of like, what's the starting area?
Forgotten Crossroads.
Or
Forgotten Crossroads. Yeah. Is it just too bland? Because I've heard that from so many people who are just like, I hear this about Hollow Knight, and they jump in and they just bounce off of it. And I'm not sure exactly what it is, because I don't think it's that difficult.
I think it might be a mix between it being bland and then a lot of people approaching this game without knowing really what it will be. And so without understanding how this can go, because I think with like returning to it, what the game is, you can appreciate the things that are there and know what it's going to grow into. With Silksong, you already have kind of that established.
Because to me, correct me if I'm wrong, I think the first few hours of Silksong are harder than Hollow Knight.
Oh yeah, but I think they're more engaging, is my thing.
They definitely I think they definitely built Silksong to be played coming from Hollow Knight. Like, it's a little less approachable to like brand new players. Like, they kind of raise the skill ceiling right off the bat a little bit,
which I appreciate, because any bigger corporation would have been like, oh, now that Hollow Knight blew up, we need to this needs to be a game for everybody,
right?
Ubisoft this game. So I appreciate that I like the difficulty. I felt like
the game was the start of Silksong a lot better. Yeah, because I never found Hollow Knight's opening to be hard. I found Hollow Knight's opening to just not hold my attention, but I enjoyed the ambiance. It's like, if you let yourself sit in it, it becomes really special. And then obviously it grows and builds. I think Silksong is better right out the gate of like still feeling immersive and giving you that sense of wonder, but like being a lot more dynamic, more of a challenge, more narrative right out the gate. So I think that's a thing, but overall still, it's one of those things where it's like, I wouldn't change it, because I think Hollow Knight as a whole somehow manages to be the perfect mixture of things. And that's hard to quantify.
And part of me wonders if people bouncing off of Hollow Knight, like, what percentage of these people are not sitting down and have headphones on or like the volume up,
immersing
because
themselves?
Hollow Knight's beginning is very slow.
It's atmospheric.
But it's atmospheric. You're exploring a broken, dilapidated, kingdom. And so that the Forgotten Crossroads are very, you kind of hear the wind blowing underground somehow or whatever, like it's just very atmospheric. And that's what Hollow Knight does so well. And I think a lot of people go into a 2D game not really thinking, oh, this is a world that I'm going to get immersed in. It's just, it's just a Metroidvania. And so if you're playing Hollow Knight without volume,
or you you whip out your Switch while you're watching The Office and you have the volume at 20% or something. Like, I could see that being how a lot of people like.
I wonder how much of the problem
if they're not dedicating enough to it right off the bat.
Yeah, and I do think these games are better served being your focus. Having it, if not on the big screen, at least being focused. Having
they are experiences worth like going all in for.
They create the sound design and
such
music.
A big part. Yeah.
Team Cherry, I mean, if not 10 out of 10, 11 out of 10 sound design and music
Yeah.
design, and they did it again here in Silksong,
Yeah.
and that's why you
everything
have to have the volume up in these games, because it pulls you into this world and you feel like you're there. I've never played another 2D game in my life that has pulled me in that way. I mean, the Ori games are kind of around there, but like they really have something special with the sound design in Hollow Knight.
They absolutely did it in Hollow Knight, like 10 out of 10. And I feel like they somehow in Silksong improved the sound design, and like everything has a very tactile feel. Like you hit a switch, you hit a lever, or just like hitting any object, breaking objects in the environment, walking across the moss that like sponges, and like everything's so tactile and reactive.
The moss and the skeleton bridges, the way everything kind of just like moves a little bit.
It feels like the world is real and you're interacting with it.
Yeah.
So let's I guess let's start with the good. We're kind of doing that there. I mean, maybe we can go around or just start on something, but like, what do you love about Silksong? And we don't have to constantly compare it to Hollow Knight. If there's a comparison, great. But otherwise, just like what do you think Team Cherry killed when it comes to Silksong?
Yeah,
does anyone have something off the top?
I think we already talked about sound design and music a lot, so we can, I'll move on from that because I agree with that.
Yeah,
it's some of the best there is. Another thing I really
drop
loved
off whatsoever.
Right. Another thing I really loved about Silksong was the movement in the combat. They brought like a very refreshed combat system. You're Hornet, so you move differently. You're a lot faster, and they kind of changed
more
the
nimble
layout of the arenas a little bit to account for that, so that you had to learn a new style of fighting with like the downward slash and whatever. And I really liked that. I thought that added a new challenge. It made it feel like its own thing. And I'd have to go back and play Hollow Knight to try and see if I have a preference, but like I really did like how fast paced and dynamic the combat ended up feeling by the end of it. I think it was really, really great and one of my favorite parts about it.
Yeah, without being fully like maybe from like Dark Souls to Sekiro, it did feel a bit like that. It felt like they made that transition, not fully, but like 70%. In that, like, because Hollow Knight, I love the combat in Hollow Knight. It's very much about positioning as well, because you take contact damage, which generally I think is bad in games, but if the game is designed really well around it, there's
if you're given the tools to position well.
Yeah, there's an incredible satisfaction and skill ceiling that comes with positioning your character in certain ways to inflict damage and not touch the enemy, and pogo and bounce around and do these different things. I feel like Hornets, they did a really good job of Hornet feels like Hornet. This is a different game, and she controls very differently than the Hollow Knight. And by the end of it, I really love, like, her downward attack, her pogo, is much hated by a lot of people because it's weird. You come from Hollow Knight or most any other game where you can attack downward, and it's just a very simple swipe down and you bounce, and we love that. That's comfort food basically at this point. And so to come into this game and her down attack is like that 45-degree angle, really messed with a lot of people when it comes to platforming.
It's a steep learning curve.
It's a steep learning curve, and much like Sekiro or whatever, you have to come into this game and you have to just learn how to play as Hornet and learn how to play in this combat system. And if you do, by the end of it, I'm curious for you guys. I think Calvin did switch, but like, I actually ended up using the Hunter crest the entire game. I never really dabbled in the other crests because I came to love that downward. All the crests have different skill sets or like slots, but they all have different downward attacks, I think is the main thing you're going to feel in combat. And I just, even though the 45-degree angle downward attack can be tricky in traversal and sometimes frustrating when it's like I'm trying to go to the right and it still went to the left for some reason, that still happened from time to time, the advantage it gave me in combat situations was just so, like, everything else felt too slow. I loved the amount of ground I could cover and how quickly I could get in attacks from above when I was using the Hunter crest. So
yeah, and you can often like thread the needle of like positioning too. It was like,
and you could really, like, in like 2 frames you could attack something, whereas some of the other ones, some of these enemies and bosses, they move quickly across the screen, and so I just like the speed that came with it. But another thing on top of that, the early enemies in the game, I thought because the combat was so much more dynamic and fast with Hornet, these basic enemies that you'd fight, the little ants with like the shields and the sword.
Mm-hmm.
Those in the early game felt like duels. Like you're legit dueling this random NPC enemy, and it felt so much more dynamic than especially the early combat in Hollow Knight. So
I agree. I used that pretty much though. I briefly tried one or two other crests and was just not enjoying it the same way. Which we'll get to in a little bit, but that one of my big issues with the game was kind of the crest system. So that being said, I loved the downward attack. It was a lot of fun. And, all of the combat felt kind of designed with that in mind.
I kind of was all over the place. I started off like kind of disliking the Hunter Crest and that pogo, and I was pretty excited when I found out that you could swap that out, and I did. But then I ended up swapping back to the Hunter Crest later in the game, and I stuck with that for a long time. Loved it. But then I did ultimately find one other crest, the Wanderer Crest, that was my mainstay through the rest of the game. So,
which the Wanderer Crest is pretty much the Hollow Knight.
It's pretty basic.
Right?
It's very much the Hollow Knight moveset, but quicker, and it's just overall faster. It's so good.
That one comes with the trade-off of your needle isn't as long, which you said you didn't notice. I did. I definitely noticed that. I was like, I need some range on this.
Yeah, which, there's a trade-off, but there is a long pin tool or charm or whatever that you can
make
equip
it maybe normal length or whatever.
Yeah, so
other things I loved, let's see. I feel like the art design, the areas were again just top notch.
The Citadel was
the Citadel cool. When you get to the Citadel and that music, the Citadel music,
Coral Chambers, man.
The art style that I loved that area. Yeah,
the Coral. Yeah. I was curious because I think it's pretty much the Coral Chambers and the Citadel is kind of the City of Tears if you are going 1-to-1, and City of Tears has a pretty magical moment when you get there and you see that and the music kicks in
out the window.
And I was curious and a little skeptical. I was like, I don't know if they can deliver that same hit, and they absolutely did. In my opinion, like reaching Coral Chambers and hearing that music hit that same feel for me.
Yeah, it was good.
I do feel like in this game there are some areas that feel a little lackluster to me compared to Hollow Knight's total of areas. Like I think I like all of the areas in Hollow Knight better than I like all of the areas in Silksong. But like we keep coming back to, the highs in Silksong might be some of the peak areas in either game. Speaking of the Citadel, and then also the boss fights. I think if they're not better than Hollow Knight, they're at the minimum they're as good.
That's one of my biggest
really good ones.
That's one of my biggest positive points on the game is just the boss fights. I feel like they really did just, as would make sense, hopefully. It feels like they took everything they learned in making Hollow Knight and they applied it to most of the bosses in this game, because there's a lot of very good bosses in Silksong.
Yeah. What comes to mind? What's your favorite boss fight? I wish I'd have made a list, but I can't.
I have 3 that it's tough to pick between, but if I have to give one, and I guess I don't know for sure if Zach's fought this, but First Sinner is probably my number one.
First Sinner is a really good boss. Yeah. It's very Nightmare King Grim kind of in this game. This game's version.
And
I feel like.
And I will say I think First Sinner is one of the coolest and most well-designed fights for the use of claw line in combat. Like that, it's so good. I don't
think I used claw line in that fight.
Oh, because she teleports like constantly, so it's almost hard to hit her sometimes.
Oh, I'm just so fast, bro.
But if you when she teleports, if you use claw line, you just get to her like instantly and do damage.
Oh, that's crazy! I didn't fight. I'll have to send you my video. I did not use claw line at all.
It's a really cool fight.
I was just dashing everywhere.
And then my other 2 that are right up with there, like it's tough to pick between, are both Act 3 fights, so I won't name them.
I think you can name whatever you want. I don't think it matters.
You can name it. I'm fine. Yeah.
So Carmelita.
Names. Oh, Carmelita is a top fight for me.
Yeah, Carmelita is, and then the final boss of True Ending.
Okay, and then not coincidentally, Carmelita I think is the one that took me the longest to fight. Also,
She is.
I found her weirdly way more difficult than any other boss in the game, and I don't know if that's a tuning thing or what happened there. It just felt like she had a lot of health, and she's a very aggressive enemy. So she was by far the toughest boss in my opinion.
Yeah.
But I also, because of that, I got to fight her longer, and I really enjoyed that fight. Which we've talked about how I might beat bosses a little too quickly, and I don't really get to like enjoy that curve.
This sometimes happens with me.
This one that I did.
With good bosses, and this happened with me with Carmelita, where I accidentally basically fought and beat her with one less nail upgrade than I could have had at the time. So I was somewhat nerfed from where I should have been fighting her. Yeah. And the fight took longer than it normally would have, and I learned that fight down to a T. Like it was so good.
That's impressive. I think I was one upgrade short, and she was the boss that made me go, I need to go get this upgrade because it was just taking too long. But I'll shout out it's probably not a top 3 boss, but like one of my just personal favorite fights in the game is Trobio. Trobio. I thought his fight was his character, his fight was so fun. Mm-hmm. I loved the movement of that fight and the dance of it, which quite literally he's a performer or whatever. So his second fight I enjoyed also, but his first fight I think was my favorite fight in the game. I perfected that fight and I got it down like I beat Trobio's butt so quick.
And once again, the music on that fight is just
that's a good one. Yeah. Honestly, this isn't one of the hard ones, but like just aesthetically, I really loved the Cogwork dancers.
That's I think that's a top 5 boss for me.
It's just such a good.
It's like, kind of gimmicky, but like not.
It's gimmicky,
but in such a good way.
Yeah, it requires like you have to dance the dance, and then also
it's
there's just
beautiful in a way that like a lot of boss fights are.
And like at the end, the one comes back, and it's like sad because
and it's like it really
it tells an entire story in this boss fight, and it's like it's beautiful, it's tragic,
and I feel like
enough difficulty
for just about everyone. I feel like it turned like expectations on their head. Like it ramps up and it ramps up, and when you down to just the one, you figure out there's a fourth phase. You're totally expecting it to just be insane, and then it's just like, oh no, it's heartbreaking.
I like that it subverted your expectations by being easier because there's only one left, but it's just sad. Like I remember when my daughter, she gets emotionally connected to everything, and she loves this game, and she was like, "Oh, it was so sad. Like, I couldn't bear to kill it."
Oh man. I know. I kind of did watch it for a second. I was like, "Oh, is there any?"
I took it slow.
Nope, we gotta hit it. All right.
And if you are slow enough, it'll go to do its like move where both of them would go and dance in the center, and it'll go and do that just alone for a second,
just all by itself. Yeah.
A couple of boss fights that good.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, Grohl the Great, I spent so much time on, and I hated him. And by the end, when I had like fully gotten the fight down, I kind of liked it.
Yeah, you love the pain. You're one of us.
Well, and it's like when I did that fight so many times that like I actually got to the point where I kind of perfected it. It's like, so it felt good to like be good at it.
See, for me,
for so long.
I wish I had talked to Calvin about this. I wish so badly that they just put a bench outside of his room and got rid of his ads and doubled his health or made him more difficult in a different way. Because I liked his fight, but I just, even though I didn't have the hardest time with the run back and all that, it was annoying.
Honestly, I didn't enjoy that. Put a bench outside. Put a bench right outside. That would have solved it.
But also I feel like his health was nerfed because of all that other stuff. So I don't remember fighting him that much. You know, it was like, and maybe if it had taken me a few more attempts, I think it took me, probably less than 10. But like, I didn't feel as much like I was defeating Grohl the Great as much as I was 50% defeating Grohl the Great and 50% defeating mobs I fought all the time.
I think a lot of it is, which doesn't mean you have to like it, but I do think a lot of it was intentional world building and storytelling because of the area of Biowater, and so in a lot of ways it is less beating Grohl the Great and it's more defeating Biowater as an area.
Sure.
So again, doesn't mean you have
Yeah.
to like it, but I do think it makes more sense when you think of it that way.
It felt like a puzzle because some of those ads are really annoying, and so you really have to learn again placement, and like I
How
just
to
kind of
fight
viewed
them.
them as they were part of the boss fight to me, and so it's like you have to figure out the various components of that fight. But that's one that I hate. I actually hated it, and then after I beat it, I was kind of sad it was over. Like, what's wrong with me?
I want to do that run back again.
I felt similarly about, I think it was Father of the Flame or whatever, the fire tree that shoots at you.
Oh, the pogo boss.
I hated that for a while, and then after I beat it, I was like,
I did switch my crest for that eventually. Wait, did I?
Oh, I didn't. I kept the.
Actually, I think I did, and then I switched back because I was like, no, I just like.
I beat that one second try. That one was not that challenging for me.
That took me probably
it was fun.
10
I enjoyed
tries, but
yeah, that was one of those things though. I love the Hunter's Crest, but man, just once every like 30 or 50 downward attacks, I will be trying to go a certain way and it'll go the wrong way, and it really irritates me. But
yeah.
So
Last Judge, another call out. Loved Last Judge.
Last Judge was a great boss fight. And the final, like Calvin said, the actual final boss is really good thematically, story wise, mechanically, just a really fun boss.
I know what the final boss is. So.
Oh, do you? Well, spoiler us. What do you think it is?
Lost Lace.
If you're wrong.
Yeah.
I heard it somewhere. I will say I really liked the second phase,
which
of
makes
Lace.
sense. You fight Lace once, twice. You're not going to fight her thrice. Are you kidding me?
It's the Genichiro a little bit.
Her second fight was pretty good. Like that was a tough fight. And
her second fight was pretty good too.
I enjoyed that one.
Her third fight just builds on it again.
All of her fights are very good because the first fight is perfect for its placement in the game.
Yeah,
and then the second fight is
it's actually a pretty good comparison with Genichiro and then Sword Saint Ishin.
Yeah.
Kind of building on the similar, it continually builds that fight up until it's the final boss fight.
I think it's very well designed and satisfying because in some ways you're not learning an entirely new fight. You kind of have familiarity with the basic moveset, but it's building on it and you have to adapt to that, and it's very fun.
And once you get there too, just like the arena and everything surrounding it, and then the ending. That ending was actually satisfying. Mm-hmm. Whereas we'll get into the 2-act thing and all that, the structure of this game, but the ending that most people are going to experience was very unsatisfying.
Yeah,
and
I get why they did.
This one
to play with you. Yeah, maybe we should get into that. But yeah, I will say that's why I know I'm going to go back and finish this because I want the satisfaction of like beating Lace again because I like Lace's character and I'm interested in where that goes. And the ending of Act 2, like it's nice to roll credits and to feel that initial sense of completion, but it was very much like it didn't feel like I'd completed the game. And so even though they're trying to do like a surprise maybe or play with your expectations, what it ended up feeling like was an arbitrary, not actually an end where they just kind of cut an arbitrary wall for the sake of feeling like there's this
segmentation
big secret surprise. And I kind of wish they just hadn't done that. Like just make it, I guess, should we just get into that topic?
Real quick before
the last. Okay, yeah. If you have them, I just want to. I was only things. What's your last
continuing with what you were saying before we moved on from it? I was just gonna specify a little more that the true ending for me was actually one of the coolest video game like story moments like for me ever. Like that hit so much better than I thought it could. So it's very much worth experiencing. I was not expecting it to deliver the way it did.
Yeah. I definitely plan to go back and finish it for that reason.
Yeah, it's worth doing. The other good thing I wanted to throw out before we get into some of our nitpicks is that I really enjoyed the town and quest system. I really did enjoy, that starting town. I'm forgetting the name if you remember, Calvin. Bone Bottom.
How could you forget?
Yeah, right. And then Bellheart and just these various towns. Bellheart was so cool. The way you come into Bellheart and it's this haunting, like everyone's strung up on these silk threads, and it's a ghost town essentially. And you liberate the town, and then it becomes a town, and then you build the town up and you do stuff for the folks, and it gets bigger and more bustling, and eventually you have a home there. When games do that, I don't want it to be over cumbersome or too many like systems going on that's distracting from the core gameplay, which, would be the combat and the platforming, but it does it so well. And then it's just kind of this little extra bit that you kind of get to unfold as you bring more people back to towns and then do things for them for various rewards. I really enjoyed that. And the way that it folded on top of itself and sent you. I remember the first time, might have been in Belhard or wherever. You've long since left Bone Bottom and the Morrows or whatever they're called. And this quest sends you back there to hunt a beast. And you literally, I also love the tracking thing, even though it was a very simple little gimmicky quest. I just liked that. And going back into the Morrows and finding this new area and this new boss that you fight. I love the way it sent you back to old areas to see something new. This game does a good job of doing that, and eventually it overstays its welcome. But they really hit on something cool there, where it gives you a reason to go back to areas you'd already explored that feel worthwhile and surprise and delight, kind of.
Yeah, I'd agree. Like up to a point, I'd agree with that. And I'd heard some people complain that the quest system was like, oh, it's just a basic go collect these things by killing these things. The thing is, I'm kind of a sucker for that to an extent. And also, I feel like the fact that it was pretty lightweight and it wasn't overly wrought, but it kind of fit in with what you're already doing was kind of nice. Because
it was just video gamey enough. Like it.
Yeah, a little extra progression. It tied in. Yeah. It took you back to some places, but made it feel like there's more of a little bit of a reason for doing it.
Gave me a little extra reason to exist in places where I would have just been done with. And I love the world and the music and everything so much. Sometimes you want just a little a dumb reason to go back and fight some more things.
Well, it's kind of nice,
just like you said, it's lightweight enough that it was perfect.
And you hit on it with existing in it a little bit, is that sometimes in games it gets easy to get like completionist, and there's we have a million things going on. You just try and burn through all the content and then you move on with your life. And I kind of like when something forces you to kind of sit for a minute in something, so that later that has more of a resonance, and it's like that was more of an experience. I didn't just like, my eyeballs didn't just like gloss over this screen and forget about it. So I did it didn't, by the end it sometimes did that too many times with certain things, but like in a general sense I liked it.
Yeah, for me,
go ahead, Kel.
That's one of the other major points that I absolutely love about Silksong. Hollow Nest is a very dead kingdom, which is thematic. It's the lore, and it's very beautiful and haunting in its own way, and I love it. But I think 1-to-1, I think I did enjoy how alive Farloom was. It's in trouble. There's problems, and it's going downhill, but it's very alive. It's very full, and it's dynamic. Things are happening. Like you said, the towns change and grow with you as you help them. And I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Hollow Knight's quest system was definitely more Dark Souls. And this kind of took more of a, hey, this is legit just a quest. Go kill a bunch of things and bring it back. And I appreciate both. I really enjoyed this though. And I would kind of look forward to a further iteration of this in the next game. I wouldn't want them to cut it. I kind of liked it.
I have one more main positive if we're about to move on.
This is way too much positive stuff.
We're out of positives, unfortunately.
One of the other big things I loved was Hornet as a character.
Yeah, I liked her.
Especially, again, just going back, comparing to Hollow Knight, I love the Knight. But one of my least favorite things in games is a silent protagonist that never talks, like Destiny. Yeah. Like, and I think that Hollow Knight does it as good as it can be. I think it's awesome. The lore supports it. It's really cool, and it's actually very cool the way it's done. But still, when compared to a character like Hornet, who is a person and has motivations and feelings and frustrations,
like
and
character for sure.
Yeah, and you see her character arc grow and change, and the fact that she talks, she has a voice, and she interacts with people, and you see her relationship grow. All of that for me was just an upgrade from the Knight. So I really enjoyed that.
I love the way she spoke, so eloquent and like articulate, and also she smacks elegant. 2 people in this game. It was so perfect. I love the way she like just straight up slaps people.
Yeah, I love. There's a little bit of attitude in this game. I love it.
Yeah, she's the it girl. So very very eloquent. I really enjoyed her character too. So all right, that's enough. We're going to talk about bad things. I guess we probably start with the act system, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've kind of touched on the two things that really were a problem for me. But yeah, the 3-act structure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
It's
so
not. I mean, go ahead. Yeah,
I mean, initially,
we're gonna say
when
the
the
same
first
thing.
screen pops up and it says Act 1, I was like, ooh,
Yeah.
shiny, oh cool, how many acts? This is gonna be cool. But then I feel like Act 1 was long enough that by the time Act 2 started, I was kind of like, oh yeah, we're doing
Forgot
that.
about these. Yeah.
And then Act 2 was so long, and spoilers for Act 2 as we spoiled everything. Act 2, you roll credits at the end of Act 2, which is a
Yeah.
very like just kind of there's a different we talked about the difference between this and Expedition 33, which spoilers for Expedition 33, 3, 2, 1, here we go. The end of Act 2 is what you think will be the end of the game. But these are two different things in my opinion. Like Expedition 33 did a great job of with the story. First of all, you got enough game that you felt like you were reaching the end of the game, but narratively there were some things that were dissonant. And you're like, this is interesting, like what's going on here? And then it unfolds into a smaller Act 3 that feels like a bonus, really.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I feel like with Silk Song, by
A
the end
bonus
of
and
Act 2,
a narrative like twist or revelation where it's
yeah,
like, oh,
And
something which
this is what was really going on,
and you
it
just
yeah,
necessitates a little more.
the Act 3 is also just part of the game. You no matter what you do, you're going
that's
through Act
true.
3.
You don't have to do anything weird to get to Act 3. So there's a
Yeah,
whole lot
that
of
too.
these are not the same thing as my point, because
Yeah.
I'm looking at Expedition 33, which on paper you could say did something similar, and I'm saying why I think it's not nearly as good. And because when I got to the end of Silk Song Act 2 and I rolled credits, it was one of those times, and I've only had this happen a few times in games, where I rolled credits and I was just kind of sitting there like, what? Like none of this
Yeah.
game feels resolved. None of this feels like the end of the game.
Yeah. And
And yet,
Expedition 33 didn't roll credits. It's you beat it and you realized, oh, this wasn't the true problem. The true problem is this thing we just
sure,
learned. We need to go deal with that. And it's like, so Act 3 is like you're still in the story. Whereas with Silksong,
sure,
yeah,
totally.
the credits roll and you're like, I guess it's done.
Yeah.
I feel totally unsatisfied with the narrative and the story. It felt kind of abrupt, the placement
Yeah.
of it
The
happening.
main point I'm trying to convey is that going into that fight in both games, I felt satisfied with the amount of content and the story to as it had gone in Expedition 33. Whereas in Silk Song, when I was doing that fight, in my brain, I was like, is this the last fight? Like it feels like it is, but it shouldn't be. That's that feeling. And when it does roll credits, and then you're like, oh, there's an Act 3, but it's after the credits. Okay, fine. That's all fine and dandy, but then come to find out your experience, which if you're someone who just kind of went through the campaign and maybe didn't 100% everything neurotically like I did, the amount of effort you had to go through to get to Act 3 is just so counterintuitive and dissonant with the way the game is structured. If you want Act 3 to not feel like the cherry on top, but instead feel like you didn't really fully play this game unless you play Act 3, it should
Yeah.
be a heck of a lot easier to start.
Totally.
So you can kind of talk a little bit about that, which you have, but
Yeah. I
yeah,
mean,
I
I think
thought the
that's
act system was
exactly
a
it.
swing and a miss for me.
That's exactly it. Again, with Expedition 33, you've been building up to this thing and you get there and the story in the game and everything, one, you've already you feel pretty fulfilled at that point and you're like, this is it. We're going to finally do the thing we've been trying to do the whole game. But something changes in the narrative. And with the game, we're like, oh, we have to adapt to this. And it takes you into that last little bit. And it feels like a true, here's what's actually happening and we need to go finish it. And then it's there's a little more content, which is great, but it all makes sense. And it flows and it's also part of the game. Like you just go right into it once you finish the end of Act 2. Whereas with this, it builds it up and then the credits just roll. Like the narrative is kind of jarring and it's like unfulfilling. You feel like there's probably more content you're missing, but you're confused. And if you don't go look online immediately,
It's not
or
clear how to get
talk
to
to your
it at all.
friends,
Yeah.
like I did, you might just think the game's done because it doesn't do much. Like you're like, oh, I guess I have a few of these little side quests to finish. And so if you're neurotic, you might think, well, I guess I want to go find all the purple flower petals in this one area from 20 hours ago because that's something I still need to do on the board. But that's the thing is like you do all of these things. There's all these side quests and like things that do not directly signpost that you need to do them. And once you do them, then it will trigger, a quest that like triggers Act 3. And the only reason I got to that is because I kept looking stuff up online, and even that I like was not always consistent about what needs to happen. I had to ask you guys, and I had multiple things where I was like, oh, I finished this quest line and this will be it. And then it's like, nope. And I have to go figure out what else I'm missing. I spent probably 10 hours finishing stuff up and trying to just find the start of Act 3. And then by the time I did, I was
like
just
the most fatiguing experience you could possibly
that's rough.
have to go into Act 3.
10 hours going back and forth across this whole map that I had already explored kind of 1.5 times. Like I'd explored it the first time, gone back a couple of times for some of the side quests already, and then I kind of went back again to try and wrap everything up to get into Act 3. And then Act 3 starts, and again, some spoilers here. Act 3 changes some aspects of the map, but also has you revisiting a lot of stuff, even though it's a little different, but you're still revisiting
problem for me.
And I was like, the fact that I had already revisited things so many times trying to get here, if this was the first time we revisited it, maybe. And again, I know they changed a few, like the map changes a little bit narratively, but overall it felt like I'm just navigating a more frustrating version of the map that I'm kind of sick of navigating at this point.
100%.
And it just, it killed the momentum for me. And I really want to experience like that, the remainder of that content, but I just, it killed the drive I had for it. Whereas with Expedition 33, I'm like, I think I beat Act 3 within a day of getting to it. Cause I'm like,
well, and you think about that too.
Out.
When you get into Act 3 in Expedition 33, this is a great example. You know exactly what has opened up to you. You get a new traversal ability and you're like, oh my goodness, I can go here, I can go here, I can do this. And it's all very clear about what to do and where to go. And you and I, it's funny, you had way more frustration getting to Act 3, but we both, two vastly different experiences, different players. But once we got into Act 3, we both kind of had a similar feeling of like, this is really fatiguing, having to navigate this map that, because from your standpoint, you'd spent all that time trying to get to Act 3. From my standpoint, I was very carefully trying to make sure I had done everything, because I just don't know with the act system or what, I don't want to miss anything. You know, if I want to get trophies, blah, blah, blah. I'm trying to make sure I've done everything and explored everywhere as good as I can. And so by the time I finished Act 2, I had like intricately explored everything available to me. And so when Act 3 starts and now I'm just like, okay, it's not abundantly clear where to go at first, especially, and even later on, it's kind of vaguely points you in directions, but there's no clear indication as to how to get to there on your map. So you end up running around, and then you'll run into an area inevitably where you're like, oh, this is different. And then in your mind, you're like, what else is different? How do I know? I don't want to retraverse every square inch of this map and try and see what has changed. It's just I think they tried to do something here and it didn't fully fail, but man, it mostly did. And if you removed the act system from this game and created much more of a golden path after Act 2, I think this game would get vastly better, in my opinion. There's too many frustrating situations.
Golden path, make it a little easier to find the couple of new things you need to find. That way it feels like you're just making the progress. Or open up one or two new areas or something like, but I'm with you on that.
2 new areas would have been way better. And I understand they wanted to do this for narrative reasons or whatever, but like if Act 3 opened up and there were 2 or 3 new areas above the Citadel or something weird like that, just so much better. Retraversing old stuff. It can be done, but I mean, I think of like Tears of the Kingdom is a way where even people complained about that, and yet you still had the Sky Islands and the depths.
When I was going to say, a lot of what worked about that is you're exploring the Sky Islands and the depths, and you have this narrative stuff around it. And even then, sometimes it felt a little bit like, okay, I have been here a lot, but so I think that's a hard thing to pull off. And I think Tears of the Kingdom, in my opinion, manages to do it. But I feel like this, I respect what they were trying to do. I don't think it fully worked. And overall, I'm glad they were trying new things. Like, I think they didn't rest on their laurels, which I think is overall a good thing. But it's frustrating because not everything always works,
sometimes you miss. And then the new content in Act 3, I will say, I really enjoyed the new boss fights, the new content. It's great. I just hate the delivery method of it all. Like there was too much frustration in retreading.
Yep.
I mostly agree with what you guys have said about the kind of have retreading old ground and that the issues of that in Act 3. And I agree. It didn't rub on me quite as hard. It didn't irritate me quite that much. I also the new ease of traversal that you unlock in Act 3, I loved that. That helped.
Yeah.
But for me,
that was cool.
the biggest strike, like the biggest sin of the whole game for me is the existence of acts at all. Because I think Act 3 has some issues, everything you've mentioned, but overall, I think Act 3 was phenomenal, and it was some of my favorite content in the game. I loved it, and it was almost only positive, but it feels like it could have been one of the coolest, most amazing reveals in all of gaming if you didn't know it was coming. But the fact that there was acts at all, you finish the game, you beat Grandmother
expecting
Silk,
an Act 2,
and
or an
you
Act
know
3,
there's an
yeah.
Act 3.
Sure, yeah.
And so to me, it was like
my problem with that thought is that I didn't feel satisfied when credits roll. To pull off a great reveal,
yeah,
you have to leave someone feeling like they have completed the game.
Yeah.
And then wait, what? Whereas when credits rolled, even if there weren't acts, if I had beaten that boss and credits rolled, I would have been like, what the heck?
Yeah.
But yeah,
this felt like a DLC a little bit, you know? So.
And I get that. But ultimately, to me, the biggest problem is it felt like such a cool, the third act was so cool, and I thought it was so awesome. And a lot of the cool factor and the surprise factor of it was just hamstrung by the fact that you were expecting an Act 3. There was no surprise to it at all.
Even if you weren't fully satisfied at the end of that boss fight, the end of Act 2, the credits roll, instead of making like, if it just immediately rolled into the credits roll, you wake up and it just kind of starts Act 3 for you, and maybe like
that would be better for sure.
Maybe you have to finish up a few side quest things to like unlock certain areas that you need to like finish Act 3 or something. Like it becomes a part of Act 3, but like you should wake up and Act 3 is initiated and like the new inciting incident happens. So you're like, hey, things have changed. Get going, because that would immediately energize you to, okay, I see what's going on. And like, even though I wasn't fully satisfied, it's clear that like I'm now in the true ending part. Sure. And I think that would have been fine. I think
that's the bare minimum that we could ask for or expect from this, because I mean, what do you guys think? My thoughts are 90% of people who play this game will never see Act 3.
I agree.
Like, do you think it's so hard to get to? If it were easier, I'd be like maybe more, but like,
I don't know about that.
Based on Zach's experience, unless they patch something, the amount of content you have to like 100% to unlock the quest, to unlock Act 3, that's not a casual gamer thing at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not so hard like so when it's tedious, and you have to.
And let's even say
it's time looking for it, and like look a bunch of stuff up.
So maybe they patch it. I haven't kept tabs, but let's say 50 or let's say even just say 60% don't experience Act 3. That does not feel like a full, like you're not getting an experience that's equitable to Hollow Knight, in my opinion. And so that's kind of the problem, I think, is just that this game needs that Act 3 to feel close to Hollow Knight, in my opinion. And the fact that it's so hard to get to and a lot of people won't experience that is just a huge miss from a design concept. I don't understand why you do that. And based on the way it was segmented and then having to get to Act 3, even myself, someone who does 100% these games that I really like, it left me feeling like it was smaller in scope than Hollow Knight. It didn't feel like as much content, whether it was the delivery method or the actual real estate, I don't know. Part of me wonders if, because I told you it's kind of hard to articulate this, but because Hornet is larger, the size of the environments feels smaller. Does that make sense? Or like you can get less on the screen because
you have more open space for your traversal.
Yeah,
so it ends up being
Hollow Knight felt bigger and more expansive,
which is interesting.
In exploration.
You've explained
Hollow
that
Knight
to
felt
me.
like a smaller, more zoomed in part of the screen because of how big she is.
You've explained that to me, and I feel like logically I can understand that, but I did not feel that at all. I felt like the world proportionally grew with Hornet.
For me, I felt like
right.
Yeah. Even after finishing Silksong Act 3, everything, fighting all the bosses, I do feel like and I don't know if this is accurate, I feel like Silk Song was a smaller experience than Hollow Knight to me. And I felt that this was a DLC that blew up into a game. I had that feeling in the bones of this game by the time I finished it, where I was really hoping, you never want to feel that. You never want to be like, oh, this sequel that took 7 years actually does feel a little smaller than the original game. So
Yeah.
I
was left mostly just with frustration, and I hope to get back to it and then finish Act 3. And so I feel like that was the ultimate thing for me, is just like way too much frustration for something that is in some ways so good. And it kind of taints the experience of like, I'm loving parts of this, but I'm also incredibly frustrated, and like I feel like I'm wasting my time sometimes too. And like I hate that, because like, that's kind of the ultimate thing for me, is like I spent too long wasting time trying to get to the stuff I want to be doing.
Yeah.
But
okay.
It sounds negative, but it was really great.
Well, that's kind of the dichotomy of this game, and that we've been struggling with, is that it's unlike Hollow Knight, which I feel like is just a very even 10. This is a very uneven, in Calvin's estimation, 10. And for me, the unevens 10. Weigh it down more than that. A very confused 10. Real quick, as we wrap this up, how did you guys feel about crests or the what are they, medallions? What do you use? I can't remember what they're called.
Tools.
There's tools, and then there's like how did you feel about?
There's just blue tools.
No, they're not all tools.
There's tools, and then there are the medallions that like are you have a certain amount per crest, and then you have like 2 tool spots or something like that, or a couple of tool spots.
Yeah.
Ultimately, I didn't love the crest system because it felt too limiting. One of the things I loved about Hollow Knight was the ability of you could kind of choose your own build, and I wanted to keep the hunters like the downward 45-degree angle attack, and so that ended up limiting me from trying some other different things, and I felt just kind of locked into a very limited amount of things that I could use. The tools were interesting, but I found in practice, it was sometimes they were a little onerous to use, where it's like I had to remember, like I had to do some thinking to remember how to position and use them.
The multiple button press is definitely like a skill ceiling that if you just put it off to the side and never think about it, it's enough to not overcome.
Yeah, and it's like, so it's one of those things where it's like I wouldn't use them for a long time, and then I would run into a challenge or a boss where I'm like, I really need a tool for this, because it, like maybe it was designed for that or whatever, and so then I have to spend all this time getting used to a specific tool. and I will say, like, I was able to do that, but I didn't end up loving most of the tools. I mostly just like the really finely tuned combat itself. The tools felt like they more often than not detracted from that, although there was maybe a couple of times where it was fun to use the tool. So that's my 2 cents.
I also didn't love the added solution they had to create to the tool problem, which is the bone currency for the tools, the shards. I felt like that was just a really inelegant solution to tools. All of it just felt kind of like you tried something new and you didn't fully lock in onto what this should be.
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe this wouldn't be as good as I'm picturing, but I feel like it would have just been better if you still had limited tools. Like from resting at a bench, you still had, maybe 12 throws of this tool before you're out, or you have to rest again or whatever.
Yeah.
But if they just recharged for free at a bench, like,
that would have been way better.
The shards felt a little annoying.
Because there was a couple of times where
recharge at a bench.
There's a couple times where I'd be on a boss where I really needed a specific tool for this specific fight, and it was a fight that I was struggling with. And so after a dozen attempts, I'm out of shards, and I didn't happen to have many bundles.
That's
or anything.
Exactly it. That's exactly it. I never ran into that problem, but anytime you create a problem where there are play cases where a lot of your players are going to have to go farm shards,
I had to do that.
Go farm blood vials.
I had to go farm shards a couple of times and then come back, and that's a further,
I mean,
that piled onto that frustration and time wasting that I felt.
I didn't use tools enough for it to be that kind of problem for me either, but it very much is like a Bloodborne blood vial thing, where it's like they kind of locked potential healing behind farming, and that's never good. Like, so it's a similar situation.
Yeah. And I part of me likes the concept of the crest system. I think it's really fun for replayability, or I know that Hollow Knight is so big and people have played it, and there's like there's not unofficial patches. What's the mods? There's like tons of mods for Hollow Knight. So I feel like Silk Song kind of brings in a lot more elements that let people play around with mods for Silk Song for years to come, or add challenges or things for runs. I like it from that standpoint, but I don't really care about that. So to me, it kind of ends up being more of a, again, to use an age-old comparison, Dark Souls versus Sekiro, where Dark Souls has all these builds, but am I ever going to use them? No, I'm just going to use a strength Unga Bunga build and fight everything. And whereas Sekiro has your one sword and this one type of combat they want you to master and use, and they can build everything around this very tight skill set. And that's kind of how Hollow Knight felt. And now with this, you kind of open up enough variability that I didn't feel it in the boss fights. I think Hollow Knight's Silk Song's gameplay is tight enough still, but it does leave me to wonder if the Hunter Crest was just her skill set, what could they have designed differently or tighter based on that, So
even more tailored.
Yeah, I just like when the developer has a vision for the style of gameplay and combat, and they can design immaculately tightly to that concept instead of having to account for. And I've been seeing this on my YouTube all the time now. There's still like nerfs coming in for certain crests and certain combinations of things, and I'm just like, that's not what that's just annoying to me. Like, it's a single player game. Like, we just shouldn't be dealing with, them nerfing Threadstorm or whatever. Like, who cares?
Totally. And some of that I think is less to do with just general feedback, and I think that is kind of interaction with the speedrunning community, because that is impacting speedrunning, and that's the interaction they're having there. But
which creates this whole like, there's a meta, and it's like, why do I need to talk about meta with Silk Song? Like, are you kidding me?
We don't need a meta.
All right. Any closing thoughts?
You got to keep
the
speed runs balanced, Levi. It's
well, I mean,
we have to impact everybody else's experience of the game.
If I cared, I would care.
Don't cheat.
Yeah. Any extraneous quick one-off thoughts before we end it, or do we touch on? I'm sure we missed something, but
I mean, I will say
Silk Song.
A lot of this critique comes from the place of it is such a good game and such a talented team that it's like the expectations are very high, and so this is an incredible game. Still, it's very worth playing, and it has some of that secret sauce that many games don't have at all. So even with its flaws, like, this is one of those games that is, if you like this type of game, it'll probably suck you in, and it will be memorable. And so I still loved it for sure.
I really loved the getting to the double jump section, the frosty mountain with the like Mount Fay with the staying warm mechanic mixed with the pretty intense platforming. Like, the platforming required to get the double jump is no joke. Like, you really have to master intense platforming.
Like,
that was
intense.
Fun. I like that a lot.
High skill platforming with a time limit was very thrilling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the time limit was cool. Hey, one quick thing I do have to say, I was severely let down by the lack of
a good Path of Pain.
I thought we're going to get 3 Paths of Pain in this game. Optional areas that are just like turning that dial up to 11.
Agreed.
There is one section in this game that is the Path of Pain equivalent in this game, and it is nowhere near
not
as
even
good
close,
or as thought out as Hollow Knight. And that was a major letdown in a game where the platforming is one of the best things. Like,
Agreed.
It's so tight and it's so good, and you want them to push the envelope there and really make you overcome a platforming challenge. And when I finished the Path of Pain in Silk Song, I was like, that was
agreed.
It was easy. Here's a great way to illustrate it. It was easy enough that when I finished it, I spent another hour or 2 perfecting it, because I just wanted a run that was like really clean and really fast. I was trying to speed run without any falls or anything, because by the time I finished it, I didn't feel like I had overcome anything. So I had to impose like a self challenge on myself.
Yeah, that is a big letdown in comparison to the Path of Pain from Hollow Knight,
which is infamous. I mean, it's the path of, everyone knows what the Path of Pain is, and they didn't really do that in this game. And I was just like, wow, that's crazy to me. So
one other positive thing I just wanted to mention that we didn't touch on, and I assume you experienced this, Zach, but we never actually talked about it. But getting captured and taken to the slab we talked about just the dynamic world. That was one of the coolest, like,
there were some Bloodborne
moments.
There were some, like, they played Bloodborne while they were developing this
Did
game.
that happen to you,
moments,
Zach?
for sure.
No, I killed the thing that was supposed to take me, I guess. Because later I was trying to...
You're such a pro gamer.
I know. Well,
holy
it's funny because
crap!
like I'm terrible at all the bosses, but I killed that thing because later I was trying to get to the slab and I was like, I don't know how to get here.
That's
and all the
funny,
things
that
were
thing
like,
killed
oh
me.
yeah, you get here when you're captured by this guy, and I was like, I killed that guy. So they're like, so I went back to look, and he was gone, and I had to, there's an alternative way to get there.
Yeah,
yeah.
So you never
You're like,
experienced
what
that.
do
I'm bummed I
you're
missed
like,
it.
how do professional gamers get to the slab?
Yeah, how do?
But so I guess to touch
That's
on
funny,
that,
man.
yeah, you get
Yeah.
captured, and you did you watch like a cutscene of how that happens? or
I
anything?
did. Yeah, it's pretty good.
And
Yeah.
that was one of the coolest.
It's very Dark
like,
Souls 3 Bloodborne.
Yeah.
Like, he puts you in the cage. And,
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then all
Then
of
you,
that
like-
was very cool. Just the
You like
reveal
kill
of
him
it.
without your needle
Yeah.
or something. You go
And
like
then
feral.
it takes away all your equipment, like your cloak. It's a little weird,
Mhm.
but it resets all your movement, and it's just like your bare bones again, which is kind of this satisfying
little
challenge.
which I
And
always
then-
hate. Which I always hate. But it was lightweight enough that it
Yeah.
wasn't a terrible.
and it was
section.
short enough.
So
And
Yeah.
then the moment of when you drop down on the guard,
Mhm.
she literally like, I think she like snaps his neck
Snaps his
and then
neck.
takes her cloak back and jumps off all in like one motion, and it's like one of the coolest moments ever.
Yeah,
she
I'm
slaps him
sad
first.
I
No,
missed
that's a
that.
different one. Yeah, that's crazy that you accidentally killed the guy that's supposed to
I
take
know.
you to. Huh. Well, yeah, it's we'll have to revisit this at some point, when we talk about games of all time or something, and just see how this
Yeah.
one lands with all of us.
Yeah.
A lot to unpack in Silksong.
And-
some highs and some
and-
lows for sure. So
To see where it all lands after DLCs happen, because that's definitely coming. So
that's true. That's true. Because when I think of Hollow Knight, I do think of the Grim Troop and the God whatever DLC where you
Yeah.
can fight all the
Whatever.
bosses and
Yeah.
yeah,
So yeah, we'll see where Silksong lands, and I have to imagine they're going to patch this Act 3 nonsense too. Like, there's got to be an easier way into Act 3. I can't imagine you're the only one. Like, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Okay, so do you guys have? What other games do you guys have? Do you guys have other games?
not
We
really.
got Yote.
Yote is my
I've
one.
started Yote, so we can get to that in a minute. A quick one. I have two.
Okay.
I have one quick one that I finished, and then another one I started. But the quick one that I finished is Sword of the Sea.
Oh, welcome.
I finished that. Yeah, I
Welcome, brother.
think I finished that right after like I decided to take a break from Silksong, and because I was already like halfway through it.
Sword of the
that
Sea
was a
is
great
so
game.
good.
Yeah,
Dude.
it was really good.
It's just a great game. Like, it's just a 10 out of 10 for what it wants to be.
Yeah, it's
It's one of them.
the vibes, the ambiance, like
Put it in the
surfing
bucket.
around on your sword, the teals and the ocean feel and the desert feel, and then there's like an icier area. The ending sequence was really cool. Like,
hmm
I really liked it. The music was good. And it was good as a it was really good as a palate cleanser too. Like, it's not a very long game. While it is one of those like experience games or like, games as art type of things, there's enough mechanics that it feels like an engaging video game. Like, you're platforming and kind of sword surfing and doing tricks and
Preach.
stuff.
Yeah.
and
Oh,
it
you got
was-
your little
it was
Hollow
great.
Knights on the desk. I just noticed that.
Oh yeah, I ordered these. I should have brought these out when we were
Hornet
talking about it,
and...
but it's a 3D printed Silksong magnet that clings to the your fridge.
Oh, I have seen those. That's pretty cool.
I decided to get it on a whim, and then here's Hollow Knight.
The Hollow Knight.
So
Very cool.
They
Yeah,
just
Sword
came
in the
today,
Sea
actually.
is dope. Go play it. It's
Yeah,
a
it's
it's a
great.
game you almost can't put down once you start,
Mhm.
and it just flows. This game
I
just
think I played
like,
it nearly in 2 sittings. Like, I played
it
the
just
first half
flows, man.
and like I sat down for like 4 hours on a kind of a rainy sick day a few months ago and played the first half of it, and then
Yeah.
I got busy with Silksong and life, and then after Silksong I was like, I really want to finish that, so I got back in, and I think I finished it in like 2 nights after that.
Yeah.
It was just like,
And aesthetically, just 10 out of 10. The whole desert and water and like aquatic. You've got like flying whales. Anytime there's flying whales,
Mhm.
count me in for that. So,
yep.
and that's from someone I hate. I hated's a strong word, but I did not vibe with
Journey.
Journey. Journey was just like it might as well have been a screensaver to me.
Yeah.
So this is that same team, same lineage. but like you said, it has enough gameplay and like
it's a real
engaging
game.
puzzle mechanics that it holds your attention, and you get to enjoy the art style and the world of Sword in the Sea. So really,
so good stuff.
I'm glad you finished that. That is that's one of those that like I think is easy to have missed, and it's you don't want to miss that one.
Yeah,
it's on my list.
Yeah, Cal's got to get to it. I played. Let's see. I got one quick hitter, and then one we have to talk a little bit, even though we've talked about it, but before you OT. But the quick one is Ball Pit. I picked up Ball Pit. Not even on sale, just when it came out, because I played the demo, and it's very much a. I guess most people compare it to Vampire Survivors. It's kind of like Brick Breaker / Pinball / Vampire Survivors, and you're a little character on like a bowling alley, or just picture Brick Breaker if you're old enough to know what that game is, or anything like that. And enemies are coming down the screen as like bricks, and you have to break them with your ball that you're bouncing around, and then you catch it, or it like bounces off of you, and you get upgrades. It's kind of a roguelite Vampire Survivor type thing where you are collecting experience, and every time you level up, you pick from a host of upgrades or things that alter your ball or give you a new ball. And it's very much just a
gotta alter your ball.
You gotta alter the ball.
Alter your ball.
I kind of got sucked into it, and I had a lot of fun with it, but people are saying it's just like I never played Vampire Survivors, so I can't speak to it. But I will say, after a few hours of playing it, I was still kind of addicted in playing it and like having fun, but also I just felt like there wasn't enough engagement in the actual gameplay, because quite literally you couldn't just set it down and select upgrades, but you almost could, is what it feels like. Like if I just had my character sitting at the bottom of the screen and the balls were flying everywhere, and then when I got a level, I picked an upgrade. It's not much engagement above that, but it is still satisfying. So it's kind of this weird, like, I guess Vampire Survivor, that's kind of what those games are. They're not quite idle games, but they're kind of idle games, you know?
A lot of the attacking or the engagement happens
very automated. A lot of it is automated. You're really just moving your character around, and you're
creating
aiming.
A build.
And there are times where you can kind of like, you can get in a pickle and you're like, oh, I got to perfectly aim this ball to get it in here so it bounces off of everyone. And there's those moments, but a lot of it is just once you get a few upgrades, there's balls flying everywhere, and it's just like just kind of happening. But that said, it was also a very unique and interesting experience for a little bit. So it's kind of worth checking out. And if you just want something to kind of screw around on while the wife or whoever, you know, someone's watching TV and you're just like, I'll play Ball Pit. It did have an interesting mechanic where when you're not in a run, you are like upgrading a village, like you build buildings and you like gather resources, and these resources and gold allow you to build other buildings that give you more stat boosts when you go into a run or unlock new characters. So there's kind of like this village upgrade mechanic. And it's also pinball-esque in that to build a building, you have to purchase it with the materials. You have to have enough materials, and then you place it, and this is hard to explain, but every time you come back to the village, you get one shot to send out all your workers for like 20 seconds. And it's literally like pinball. They bounce off of everything. And when they bounce off of something, they either harvest like wheat or wood, or they increase, they help build a building. And so you're trying to position things in a way where you can like send them all out and they'll bounce off of stuff and build the building and give you upgrades and collect resources. So it's this really weird mini game in between. It's a very weird game, but I played it. So
I pulled up a video clip on Steam just to see what this is about. This is visually very overstimulating, but like
it's very much they're dopamine games.
Yeah.
And there's enough interestingness with the characters you unlock. All the characters have different like play styles, or they alter something very integral about the ball that you use. So it's not worth playing. I just kind of wish it had a little bit more skill ceiling or like engagement.
Sure.
But anyways, it's It's in the Steam library. If you guys it's a good Steam Deck game. So
yeah, I can see that.
We've spent too much time talking about Ball Pit. But it's a hard game to explain. Is kind of the problem.
Sure. Yeah.
Now I'd like to talk about Ball Pit for 10 more minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So here are the negatives, though.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. Okay, I guess we'll do this now because we got to get into Yote, but we got to talk about baby steps. I can't save it because it's already happened.
Yeah, I mean, this game is so foundational to you at this point.
Dude, Baby Steps is very likely a top 5 game for me this year.
That's incredible.
You never could have predicted that.
And you guys, you haven't played much more than when we watched you, right?
Mm-mm.
And Calvin hasn't played.
I've played a little bit, but I have not. I haven't played any meaningful.
I made you put thumbs on the sticks and fall over a bunch.
I have. I've run around in the game enough to know the game enough. But.
All right. Well, I don't know how to succinctly say this. I guess I'm really shocked. This looks like such a meme game, and it's the Bennett Foddy stuff where it's kind of rage bait for streamers, but what this game actually ended up being, I'm so impressed by how much more of a game it actually was. Like
how much more substance it has.
It had substance, which I wasn't expecting. Where you look at like Getting Over It with Bennett Foddy, or Only Up, or Jump King, just to name a few, and they're built to be mechanically frustrating and to set your progress back a long time, like very frustrating, to the point where even someone with my level of patience can really burn out on these games. Whereas this game, I feel like, really took a more casual approach. Yes, there's a lot of falling you can do and you can lose a lot of progress, but I don't feel like the game really takes the piss, so to say, as our friends down under would say. I don't feel like they take an inordinate amount of delight in setting you back hours. Like, this game doesn't really do that. There's certain key moments where you can fall and there can be frustration, but by and large, you are making progress that can't be undone to a very large degree. So there's that helps. Secondarily, the mechanic of walking, though initially is incredibly awkward and built to be frustrating to an extent, it also mechanically works really well.
It's actually pretty sound.
It's very sound and very precise, to the point where when you've put 5-10 hours into this game, all of a sudden you're freaking like running around. You're like,
it's like riding a bike.
You're like pinpoint putting your toe on this thing, and then like climb. Like, literally, there's climbing walls in this game that you can, like, picture a climbing wall at a climbing gym with like the little handholds, except you don't use your hands. And you get to the point where you can use your feet and climb. Like, that's how precise this game is. And then on top of that, adding in the characters in this game and the writing, which obviously subjective, but it is just the most New Zealand dry humor. And it's just perfectly executed. Like, I looked forward to I try to find the cutscenes, because you'll stumble into something or whatever. Mm-hmm. And there'll be recurring characters that you'll run into as you're this, like, useless 30-something-year-old man in a onesie. And you're interacting with these characters that are either, like, allegedly helping you climb this mountain, or they're climbing the mountain themselves. And it's just every interaction and cutscene I probably have saved, because they were just so funny and engaging, and also the characters, you kind of come to like them.
You just wanted to see the naked
and it's
donkey
not like this
again.
game has the most amazing story. The naked donkey, yeah, all the donkeys. You gotta turn off nudity, because they all are not wearing pants.
This game has a lot of depth. A lot of depth in this game.
A lot of. Yeah, I don't know.
Now,
those are the two words.
The hour and a half, 2 hours.
Sorry, I threw you off, of course.
The hour and a half, 2 hours I played of it, I agree, because I got to the point where I was fairly proficient at walking by the time I was done, after just like, one kind of extended play session. Proficient at walking. Yeah. So I could see that, because it's like, and you pick it up and you're like, oh yeah, like you kind of figure out how does this work? And the cutscenes were funny and engaging, and the world building was kind of, there was something there. So part of me wants to go finish it, but I don't like. I still need to finish.
This is my game this year that caught me off guard, and I was just like, obsessed with it until I fully finished it, and just never would have guessed that it would be as good of or quality as it is. Like this game is the game of this year that came out of nowhere and really surprised me. So, if you need some sort of endorsement to play Baby Steps, or you've never played a Bennett Foddy game,
it's a legit game, guys.
It's a legit game, and also it's a good introduction to these type of games because it's not overly frustrating, I don't feel like. And it has
it's more accessible
characters and narrative reasons that kind of keep you wanting to move forward instead of just, I want to reach the top, which is helpful too. So there's Baby Steps. So let us get into Yote. Where are you at, Zach?
Not super far. So I
you met
I beat
Atsu?
The first of the Yote 6, the snake.
Oh yes, the snake.
So
before credits, before
the credits even, So I have not even gotten to the second of the Yote 6. I have gone up on Mount Yote to get like the 2 sword stance. So I only have 2 of my stances at this point.
Okay, yeah.
I've explored a decent amount of the grasslands, like that intro area.
Yeah.
But I haven't finished exploring it even. I have a couple of quest markers that are taking me up north. That I haven't followed yet, so that's kind of where I am. I somewhere between 3 and 5 hours into the game.
Okay, I saw you on Yote. I
tried to catch up really quick.
I'm like Zach's trying to beat Yote before we record.
I think I did 1 shrine.
Hey man, those shrines take a while.
Oh, that's brutal. That's brutal, man. Yeah. All right, well, Calvin, you have finished it, so we're unlocking a spoiler from early in the episode. But I guess now that you finished it, I am curious. What would you give it out of 13?
Oh gosh, this is what I said 8 to when you asked earlier.
This is a
confused 8 out of 13.
I don't know.
Don't worry, that confuses.
It's probably like a 10 out of 13 in my book.
Let's go. Okay, so.
He's like, I'd give it a negative 2 times 3 out of 13.
7.8 out of 10.
Yeah, so out of 10. What would you give it? Sorry, I'm just screwing around here.
I can't do math, Calvin. I don't know.
Have you reached an 8? Is it an 8?
I think it's probably an 8.
Probably an 8.
It's not a solid 8. No. It is I managed to get to an 8. That's where I'm at.
Okay. Yeah, you're throwing it a bone.
Whereas Ghost of Tsushima for me was a solid 9, if not 10.
Yeah, Ghost of Tsushima at the time was a 10. Maybe now it'd be like a 9.5. But
and that's the thing I'm grappling. So I have not beaten it.
Okay, and Calvin, you have beaten it.
Yeah, I've platinumed it.
But I'm definitely feeling like this is just an 8. This is an 8, if there ever was an 8.
Yeah.
And it's kind of hard to grapple with, like, okay, if Ghost of Tsushima came out in 2025, would we feel the exact same way about it? Would it also be just an 8? I don't know, because at the time when I played Ghost of Tsushima, I felt the same way. I felt this is just an 8. And then over time, I was like, you know what? Then Iki Island came out, and it grew on me. And I was like, you know what? I loved being in that world. I really grew to love Jin's character, especially. And over time, I'm like, Ghost of Tsushima is a top 10 game all time. It's a 9.5 out of 10. But I do think some of the mechanics. Let me start with my. I'm going to try and give my brief over thoughts here as we get into this a little bit. But I feel like if Ghost of Yote in a parallel universe, if Ghost of Yote came out in 2020 instead of Ghost of Tsushima,
if they were flipped?
I think they're really close. No, not if they were flipped. Just if there were only one game and Ghost of Yote came out instead of Ghost of Tsushima, I do think they're incredibly, incredibly similar.
Yeah.
But in the context of it being a sequel 5 years later, that's the hardest part that I have grappling with some of the inadequacies or lack of progress in this game, where in a lot of ways it feels like I'm playing Tsushima again, which is not all bad, but can feel a little like, again, that Silk Song, or just like when we're waiting as long as we're waiting for games, you know, half a decade, if not longer, and a game comes out and it's like, all right, it runs a little better than Tsushima, but it kind of is the same as Tsushima. Like, I'm not seeing anything here that feels like this is a PS5 game, really. And then a lot of the open world mechanics that you're doing are pretty much the same, and the ones that are different I kind of like less than what you did in Tsushima. um Atsu as a character is growing on me, and the main story, I will say, is a lot better than I was expecting at the beginning, but I don't like Atsu as much as Jin. And a lot of the side content and writing I feel is very poor. And you get the immediate thing to me that was very jarring was getting into this game, Ghost of Yote, 5 years later, big Sony first party game, and getting into some of the not even terribly side content, but just an hour or two into the game and seeing these character models that look like they're from 2015, like just rough looking, rough mouth syncing, rough everything. And that just being really kind of a letdown in 2025, I guess. So that's kind of where I'm at. I feel like this is just, if this came out the same year, if both these games came out, I feel like they would be very comparable. Be like, oh yeah, do you like Yote or Tsushima better? Did you like Jin or Atsu better? But being the time and the sequel nature of it is where I struggle.
Or if this had been the one that came out, this is the one we would remember the way we remember.
Yeah.
Sure,
but absolutely, yeah. I think a lot of my disappointment and negativity that I have with the game very much comes down to the fact that it's a much anticipated sequel, and the expectations and the excitement surrounding that. It feels like it could have and should have been a lot more than it was. And it felt like it was, like you said, kind of just more Tsushima and a little bit better in some areas, a little bit worse, and just kind of like it felt very whelming to me.
4 to 5 hours in, that's how it feels to me. Is more Tsushima, which I really am enjoying. I loved Tsushima. It was my game of the year the year it came out. And so I'm having a lot of fun with it. It is very comforting, and I love like the ambiance of the world, the combat. The combat feels a little better because there's some more parrying I think you can do in this one. So it's like a little improved. But that being said, it very much feels like I'm just getting more Tsushima, and I think that's for better and worse. But I also haven't been wowed by anything in particular that makes it feel like a 10
That's
out of 10.
That's a good way to put it. I don't feel like there's really any point in this game where I've been wowed.
Yeah, it's enjoyable. I really like it. And I can't give it a score with how much I have left to go, but it's feeling 8 out of 10ish to me too. Like that. If it continues the way it's felt so far, that's I think where I'm going to end up.
Levi, you mentioned this a little bit. How a lot of the open world stuff and activities that you can do are largely the same, and the ones that are different are varying. But one of, honestly, like open world wise and just being in the world, one of my absolute favorite things in Ghost of Tsushima, like without a doubt, was sitting down and writing haikus. Going to just finding these spots around the world, sitting down and like picking one between 3 options and building your haiku while you look at the environment.
And then him saying it at the end while it pans over the
that was one of my favorite things in the game.
Very satisfying about that.
The painting doesn't hit quite the same way.
I was very disappointed with the Sumi whatever painting as the replacement. It to me,
I wish I didn't replace it.
Yeah, to me, I feel like the concept
I can agree with that. Cool. I don't need it to be out of the game, but it does not replace haikus.
It's not as good. It doesn't impact.
To me, as a 1-to-1 comparison, like being the replacement, it's an incredible disappointment. But I feel like I can appreciate the concept, and like what they're going for is kind of cool.
Yeah.
But in execution, it's like there's no engagement. It's just this.
That's what drives me nuts about it, is that I sat down, I was playing some today, and generally I kind of try and do what it's doing.
Yeah.
But today I was like, legitimately, I wanted to test to see like how minimal, literally, if you go the direction it wants, that's it. It'll do it. You don't have to do anything other than, and it's just like so minimally engaging.
And it's funny,
and
because
it feels like you don't really have to do anything.
It's funny because mechanically and physically, it's technically probably more engaging than the haikus.
Not cerebrally.
But yeah, the haikus, you're literally just looking around and clicking X, but you're thinking about what it is, and you're picking and you're constructing, and it's
you can express yourself.
You have this satisfying
there's no expression. That's what it is, Zach. If they could have done this in a way where maybe mechanically it's the same, but I get to kind of choose how I'm
Right.
painting this, or like have a couple options of what I'm including in the painting,
Yeah.
that would have gone a lot. I think that is the biggest thing, is there's no expression whatsoever in it.
And
Yeah.
And it feels so mechanical, just like
Feels very rote.
swipe on.
Whereas
Yeah, it's
Jin's thing,
just
it felt
going
like
through
you
the
were
motions.
participating in the art a little bit. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
you got
Well,
to
you were building a
create,
haiku
like
based
they
on
gave
what
you
you thought
pieces, but yeah,
sounded good.
you were actually writing a poem in a way, and
Yeah.
that felt meaningful. And I think that's my issue too, is it did the paintings, it's kind of neat, but it's like doesn't feel meaningful. And after doing it like twice, it's like I don't really,
Yeah.
it's the same every
Yeah.
time because I'm not really
Um
actually participating.
and
And to kind of build on that into
okay.
other things, what's the instrument called?
The shamisen.
Oh yeah, I forgot what
Oh
it's called,
man,
but
I don't know. You have a little like mandolin, little guitar
stringed
thing. I don't
instrument.
remember what stringed instrument. Um, I was incredibly disappointed with. Again, I feel like they really
Same.
failed to bring engagement. Uh-oh, he'll be back.
We can keep
I
going.
feel like they really failed to bring engagement with these open world side activities,
Yeah.
where we just talked about the painting, you not really participating in that. It's just it's very mechanical. And the I'm not gonna be able to think of the word, the instrument that you play. I was, the first time I did that, I was like, that's it? You like kind of hold on the
Mhm.
touchpad until you get to the area you want, and then that's it. And I
It
was
is,
like,
it's not
what, you
satisfying.
could have easily done like a Guitar Hero type thing where I have
Yeah.
to hit certain buttons at a certain time,
Yeah.
like made it
Make a
somewhat
rhythm game out
engaging.
of it, like
Yeah, some sort of mini rhythm game while she sits down and plays in a beautiful environment would have been really cool. And
yeah.
instead, it just feels very passive and like I don't really have anything to do with what's
And
happening.
another thing I noticed pretty quickly, and I think it was the same way because of how limited it is. But every time you do like learn a new song on the shamisen or whatever, and you
Oh, there you go.
actually, yeah, I think my internet cut out. I said it before.
Oh,
Um,
did you? Okay.
He was
but
screaming
you,
it from the dead connection.
um, but every time you learn a new song and you actually have to like slide up and down and find the note,
Yeah.
I pretty quickly figured out that it's always one of two spots. It's always top of the neck or bottom of the neck, never in between. There's
Well,
no
yeah.
like it's
No,
like
it's
Yeah,
just so minimally
like
done, and it just
yeah,
feels that way.
it's like I don't
So,
even want to
yeah.
do it, you know.
and
Like,
that's kind of that's a microcosm of my issue with this game, is that it in a lot of ways it feels like comfort food, and it feels like Tsushima, and it's like, cool, I dig it, I can get into it. And in a lot of ways it feels like either similar polish or less polished than Tsushima, in just in little ways like
Yeah.
that all
yeah,
kind of add up, where you're
with
just like, really,
less engagement.
this is the
in
amount of
Tsushima.
effort you put into this
Yeah.
thing that we're doing. Like, it feels like
Yeah,
the
And
absolute bare minimum, and it's just not engaging.
yeah,
Whereas I feel like all of these things could be tuned up to really feel cool and immerse you further in the world, and they kind of don't.
hmm
So I don't know. And then, I mean, where do you want to go from there? How do you guys feel about, you're pretty quick in, but are pretty still in the beginning. Atsu as a character. What are your initial thoughts, Zach?
I like her well enough. I think with Jin, I was maybe honestly, I don't think I immediately connected with Jin a ton. It was kind of over
No, it
time. I
took
think
time.
it took time
Yeah,
to appreciate his character. Um, and I think it's the same way with Atsu, where it's like the setup is interesting. I mean, it's a classic revenge story, so it's like kind of basic, but it's like, yeah,
it's a little one note there,
they
but
killed
yeah,
my family, so we definitely want to go get them. But it does feel a little bit one note, and I haven't gotten to a point where I'm connected with her yet, but I haven't played enough of it, so it feels
sure.
fine. I think it's fine enough.
So from your perspective, Cal, did you get to a point? Because I guess I'll share mine. I'm in the middle. I'm not quite in the middle, but I have finished 3 of the Yote 6. I just finished the Kitsune tonight or today, and then the first one I did was the Oni, and I'm getting to a point where her character is becoming more endeared to me, and they're rounding it out a little bit more and softening her in certain ways that I appreciate. But I don't foresee myself liking her as much as Jin at this point in the game. So that's where I'm at. I think maybe I could get to a point where I look back and I'm like, oh, I actually did like Atsu. She's okay, but I don't feel like I'm going to reach um, the same level of endearment that I did for Jin's character. So, Cal, are you gone? You frozen?
Looks like he's frozen.
All right. Well,
one thing I'll say related to that is, I feel like part of what worked with Jin is the tension and the conflict he dealt with his, like, what does it mean to have honor in his,
the ghost and
like,
the samurai,
and the way that played into the mechanics of how you could play the game and who do you want
the
to
honor
be.
and the
That all just worked really well together, and it kind of made everything, and like the haikus too. It's like you kind of got to figure out who you were as Jin, and it made it more of a meaningful experience. Whereas, again, I'm not nearly as far, but it feels like with Atsu a little more. They killed your family, you got to go kill
now
them,
you
and
gotta
that's
kill
cool.
them.
Like, I'm down for that,
Yeah.
but it doesn't have it. There's not the same nuance and interesting questions of like, who are,
Sure.
what does it mean? And I imagine they will somewhat play with the idea of like, when does revenge go too far? But often that
Right.
feels a
And
little
how,
basic.
and
Like,
is
obvious,
revenge worth it? Yeah.
is revenge
I'm
worth
not
it?
even there yet, but I can tell you that obviously as we get to the end of this list, it's going to be like, do we actually kill the final Yote, or what's his name? Saito. Do we actually kill him? Or is there going to be like this whole,
decision?
Yeah, it's very predictable.
But for
and
her
whatever
story, I
it's
kind
going to
of feel
be,
like I kind of feel like, well, I'm gonna want to kill him. Like,
you better, yeah.
And
so
the question,
the dissonance with Jin, where it's like, I know I need to stop this threat that is invading Tsushima.
what's right, what's
is
honorable,
is
the
it worth
means to the end worth
sacrificing my
it?
honor to do the right thing? It
Yeah.
might be, but that felt like a more interesting question to grapple with as Jin, and as a player kind of choosing how to be Jin. Whereas with Atsu, like, I feel like if it comes down to it, and it'll depend a little bit on how they do it. But if it really is just like, should you kill him or not? It's kind of like when the hero is always like, well, I'm not going to be bad like you. And it's like, well, we do need to stop that guy. So it's like, I want to kill the Yote 6, but I feel like I'm missing a little bit of, and I'm not far enough yet, but I feel like maybe it'll miss a little bit of that added complexity that is just the nature of the situation.
So
and I also just
I've
really
been
quickly,
gone. Have you guys just been talking story?
I'll jump you in here in just a sec, but just regarding Atsu and Jin is what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Just another kind of superficial thing that's subjective is I just really love Jin's voice actor.
Mm-hmm.
I really love
it's so soothing.
His soothing, calm mannerisms and voice.
Good
and
horse,
to this day, exactly, to this day, I say that. Good horse, Kage. Like, I mimic Jin because I was so connected to his voice actor and the way he was portrayed. And I don't feel that way about Atsu. But the question, Calvin, that I had as we kind of went through Zach's initial impressions and then me more toward the mid to 60% game, having finished the game, did she endear herself to you in the way that Jin did in the later parts of the game? Did she ever get close to a Jin for you, or just very clearly not?
She grew on me more than I expected, and she did grow on me a lot, but it did not reach Jin levels for me. Like,
not quite there.
And I think
it is decidedly below Jin for me.
Yeah, but I think she did part of my hypothesis for that is that with Jin, part of what was so interesting beyond him being soothing is like he had this really deep conflict about, to save my home, I might have to be the thing my family has taught me is not right. Yeah, and that was such an interesting character decision. And it's like he was justified to like do what he needed to do.
Yeah.
But it was this hard thing. Whereas with her, it's kind of like
of how you do it.
The Yote 6 are just pretty clearly all terrible. And like maybe they try and like humanize them a little bit later in the game. But I feel like this is kind of one of those things where they are just kind of bad dudes. And so it's like, yeah, I get the idea of we don't want to do revenge for revenge's sake can lead you down a bad path or whatever. But if they're all bad dudes, the answer still feels like,
so I will say,
these guys.
As we're being negative here, I will say at the point I'm at, which I don't know if you caught that, Calvin, I finished the Kitsune storyline today, and I have finished so I finished the first 3.
You have 2. Yeah, first 3.
Yeah, 2 plus the snake. And I will say, I have really enjoyed. So like each of the Yote 6 are obviously kind of like their own area and storyline, and the main story content in this game, I've actually found to be. If there's anything in this game that has surprised me or wowed me, wowed is a strong term, but I've been really impressed with the main story content. Both of them, the Oni, the storyline and the characters you meet there, I was like, oh dang, because I had heard from outlets and reviews and whatever, the writing is really poor in this game, and I do find that to be true with with pretty much all the side content. but I was expecting that of the main content as well. And when I got into the Oni storyline and the characters you meet, which I won't spoil for Zach, I was kind of like, oh dang, this is really hitting. This is really cool, really interesting character stuff
Very
is happening.
compelling.
And very compelling. And now I finished the Kitsune storyline, and I was like, that was actually really compelling as well. Like they're doing some things with characters that is actually engaging and interesting. And from the whole Yote 6 standpoint, I won't spoil anything, but like with the Oni and the Kitsune, there have been elements of like, oh, they have humanized one of these villains, and I also see shades of that with Saito, because there's interactions you have with Saito where it's very Thanos like, where you're like, I kind of see where he's coming from. Like he kind of feels like a dude who has a vision, and maybe his vision is kind of good, but he's had to do some really bad things to get to that vision. And is it ultimately worth it, or is he just a bad dude? Like there's some of these things that I can kind of see in the story where I'm like, actually, I think Saito might be a more interesting villain than whatever we had in Tsushima, which I don't even really remember the Mongol guy from Tsushima that much.
Tsushima, the interesting thing was the internal conflict.
It was Jin. Yeah. Jin was the star of Tsushima, whereas I feel like the Yote 6 is the star of Yote.
Yeah.
And not so much.
And 1-to-1,
maybe.
Interesting.
1-to-1, absolutely. And having finished the game and everything, I think Saito is a far more interesting and compelling main antagonist than Khan, whatever his first name is, from Tsushima.
Khan was just a bad dude.
Yeah. He's whereas just Saito,
you can kind of be like, huh, interesting. You know,
there's a little more depth and nuance and intrigue with Saito that cool. I really enjoyed. And then go right on with what Levi was saying. I was very impressed with all of the main story content. I thought it had the same writing chops that that Tsushima had. I felt like I could see that same core there, and it felt like that quality writing. My biggest thing is that, it's a revenge story. I think at the end of the day, it's a very well done revenge story, and it's a very well written story, but it inherently, in the nature of being a revenge story, is much flatter than Jin's story. Jin's story has so much more depth and layers, and it just even if it's really well done, it's still a revenge story.
It sounds like there's depth to the Yote 6, which is interesting. That's what I hit on.
Yeah. Exactly. The start. I think that actually I stumbled onto something that might help explain both of these games, where Jin really is the star of Tsushima and the Yote 6 are more of the compelling story here with the Yote. Because Atsu's story is very much, I want revenge, I'll stop at nothing. Oh, but at what point is revenge really fulfilling? You know, like it's just, that's not a terribly compelling arc. But the villains themselves and who they are and how they came to be who they are and who they serve, I think that's much more of the compelling part of this story. So,
and hopefully I'll
give it credit there. It's been really good. Yeah. Actually,
the main story writing is
that's cool.
It is, I would say, mostly just as good as Tsushima. Hopefully this isn't really getting into too much of a spoiler territory, but I was thinking about it. I'd kind of forgotten, because I was comparing Saito and Khan, the Mongol leader, as like the final bosses 1-to-1, until I remembered that he's not the final boss of Tsushima. Lord Shimura, your uncle, Jin's uncle,
that's right,
is the final boss of the game, and that is narratively and emotionally, that is one of the most impactful and memorable.
That's true. Do you fight him under the red tree where you used to train?
Yeah. And it's like it's so tragic, and it's very tragic, and it's so emotional, and
when it's that core conflict of Jin of like,
that does make more sense, because the Mongol leader was just kind of like a face. It wasn't.
Yeah, so I was trying to compare, and I'm like 1-to-1. I was like, I like Saito better as a final boss, but it's main antagonist, because I was like final boss in Tsushima was
at worst
amazing.
Though. I'd say they're pretty even there. So, as we move into just some other things to wrap up here, visually, I think we kind of already touched on. To me, it feels very much the same, just running on better hardware.
Okay, I may have been cut out when you guys talked about visuals, but
the irony. The irony.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were cutting out through that whole thing. But yeah, you may have been. I was just saying, I haven't touched on it much. Just basically that, like, for this being a sequel, 5 years later, a PS5 exclusive, it doesn't feel that way. There's a lot of times where I'm like, ooh, this looks really good, but it still looks about as good as Tsushima looked.
Yeah.
And there are many times where when the wind isn't blowing and there aren't particle effects everywhere, and you can kind of see the assets for what they are, it's kind of like, ooh, this is looking a little bit rough, actually.
Yeah.
I definitely felt that most of the time it looked the same as Tsushima in my memory. I did not go back to compare 1-to-1, but it looked the same. It did not look drastically better.
I did. I downloaded Tsushima on PS5, and I will say it's the fidelity is it's crisper. I'm not going to say Yote doesn't look better, but that's purely a hardware thing. I think it doesn't look generationally better at all.
And there were moments, particularly moments along the main storyline, kind of like the writing, where it felt like they put a little more into that. But there were moments where it looked pretty stunning. I don't know if it was quite what it felt like this is a PS5 game, but it looked stunning. Yeah. And I was like, this is incredible. But there were also, like you said, there were moments, especially moments where you get up high or there's a high draw distance, where there are like mountains and assets that look like PS3. And I'm like, oof, that's rough.
Yeah, technically it feels like it should be a couple rungs higher than it is. So, which is, again, kind of part of that conversation of, if this had come out the same year, great, but it's 5 years later, and I think we kind of expect some sort of progress to be made in these things. So,
yeah, well, especially if you're being burned this generational cycle with PS5, like, it just kind of
adds to the pile.
You know, like.
Yeah, and then and then also I've had to adjust my expectations, but like, we had this whole thing with Horizon too, where Horizon comes out and technically it's in such a bad state, and we just expect more of Sony first party games to just be kind of setting the bar in the industry for quality and how it runs on their machines. And so when these games come out, and to give Yote credit, it runs really well.
Yeah,
but I also think that's because it's not pushing anything. Graphically that like Tsushima didn't already do. So
that's because it's kind of like Tsushima running on a PS5.
It's a PS4 game running on a PS5, basically, is what we're looking at. That's why it runs so good. So what do we got mechanically? Calvin, do you have any thoughts on, like, obviously they changed from the stance system to the weapon system here, and you do get I don't remember, I haven't played Tsushima, so I don't remember if you get different bows, or like, I know there's some things like kunai, but they do it differently here. For me, I have felt it's a little over cumbersome to use. I constantly find myself in combat not fully knowing how to change from my smoke bomb to my kunai, or from my, is my firebomb something I throw, or is it one of my quick attack things? Like, I can't, there's a bit too much going on, and I have a hard time doing it all in combat. It doesn't feel intuitive to me.
I will say I agree with a lot of the throwables and quick fire items. I agree, where I never, it always felt a little too much, and I didn't engage with it much because of that. It wasn't easy to engage with for me. As far as the weapon system versus stance, to me, it's close. They're probably pretty close to interchangeable. I really did thoroughly enjoy at least two of the weapons, though. I thought they were so much fun, and I feel like I had more fun with some of the specific weapons than I ever really did with just the stances in Tsushima.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'll have to see how I feel at the end of it. The weapon system, I both find really cool from like an aesthetic and like mechanical standpoint. It's cool to pull out a different weapon that has a different moveset. But I also think it's part of what's contributing to the over cumbersome nature of the combat, because you also have a skill tree for every weapon, and every weapon has different moves depending on what you do, and different special moves. And at this point, I can't keep track of them all. I don't remember what special move this weapon does versus this weapon. And I could be wrong, but I feel like in Tsushima, you just had the stances. It was a rock, paper, scissors thing. And the simplicity of that combat lent itself really well toward like that combat was just perfect in its simplicity. Mm-hmm. And now in this game, I kind of find myself, I feel like there's certain enemies that are fighting me a certain way that I'm supposed to engage with a very specific way with a very specific weapon, and I can't always keep it all straight. So I end up being frustrated fighting them because they're designed that way. Whereas in Tsushima, it's just like change your stance, change your stance. I felt like here it's like change your stance and do this specific input with this weapon to overcome this specific thing. And it's just all of it feels a little over its skis in that like the skill ceiling probably is a lot higher, but I'm not finding myself reaching that skill ceiling. I'm finding myself not using some of these things that I think they want you to.
Fair enough. Yeah, my only thought as you were saying that was that I'm pretty sure, like as you upgrade each weapon, the special move that you can do for each weapon, I believe it's the same input every time. It's just a matter of knowing what that move is.
Just what does
but it's
it
always
do,
the same
and
input. Yeah.
do I have enough spirit,
resolve,
or
spirit?
And, I also feel similarly about the charm system in this game, which maybe it's the same as Tsushima, but I just find myself not engaging with it very often. I feel like there's more systems in this game that I'm not wanting to engage with than I ever remember from Tsushima.
Yeah, I don't remember. Wrong, but I don't remember how much I really engaged with the charm system in Tsushima, but as far as Yote goes, I very much did not engage with it. Like early in the game when I was still getting like filling out my charms at all, I was paying attention to it. And then after that, I found a few charms that I kind of liked and I never looked at them again.
Yeah. Well, I guess I'm trying to think of what else to wrap up. Are there any speaking of side activities, we've talked about painting and stuff. Is there a favorite side activity you have in this game? Is there a new one you've experienced, Zach, besides painting that you were like, oh, that's really cool, or I really hate that? I'm trying to think, because honestly, at the point I'm at right now, I feel like I am going to be like mostly mainlining, because I haven't brought this up to this point, but I'm kind of surprised to find that in my playthrough of Yote, I've taken long breaks and I've gotten kind of bored in moments, because it kind of straddles this line between being comfort food and being boring to me. And I just find myself reaching these points where I'm just like, I'm not feeling sucked into this.
I feel the same. Yeah, I took the last week and a half without really picking up the controller. I mean, it's been busy.
The way we were all sucked into Silksong, despite our criticisms, I'm not sucked into Yote in that way.
Right. Yeah. It's comfort food, but it's a little boring and it doesn't pull me back in as much. Except when there's cool moments. But yeah, I feel that.
And Levi, I don't know if you brought this up while I was disconnected, but me and you talked about how as cool as the wind and the no HUD systems are, we've kind of come to the realization that we feel like it's in reality masking a very rigid open world.
Oh, yes. Great job. Sorry, I just clapped in the mic. Great job remembering to bring that up. I had that thought run through my mind a while back, and then I never found my way back to it. But yeah, I brought this up to Calvin. I was doing a mountain shrine, which are basically long form platforming
parkour
things, even though
climbing,
like parkour.
I've done one of them.
Grapple.
The platform. Yeah. It's weird that there's platforming sections, but there's no platforming in this game. You know, have we really thought about that?
And those mountain shrines are long. Like they take a while to.
Yeah, they take like a solid 10 to 15 minutes to get through. Like, and that doesn't sound long, but when that's a long gameplay thing. But I was telling Calvin that I think we kind of are very forgiving of Tsushima and Yote because they do some things really well and they're really immersive in certain ways. But it because of that, we gloss over how formulaic and restrictive the movement in these games is. And I'm saying from a standpoint of I was talking to him about Assassin's Creed Origins, which came out in 2016, maybe 17. And just the freedom in Origins of exploring that world and climbing anything and moving around. Whereas in Yote, is very rigid and kind of designed, even though it's an open world game, it's designed in a very linear PS2, PS3 kind of way, where like you are intended to go a very specific way.
You can only climb specific things.
Yeah, you can only interact and climb with very specific things.
Yeah.
And if you fall off a ledge or something you weren't supposed to, or you try to shortcut something that the game wasn't wanting you to shortcut, you'll just like fall, death screen, respawn. Like it's just very old school in that way, that's very rigid and kind of drives me nuts. Like I wish we could marry the story and some of the immersive qualities of Yote and Tsushima with the freedom that we have in like an Origins, that allows us to tackle open world stuff a little more interestingly.
And I feel like the no HUD and the wind and the immersion that it pulls off is really cool, but I feel like it, like I said, it kind of masks a lot of those problems, or it tries to trick us into thinking that it's a better open world than it really is.
Yeah, that was a surprising thought to me, is realizing like, this is actually more linear of a game than, once you get into any sort of activity, it's very linear in how they want you to go about things.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not necessarily a complete negative. I can appreciate a more focused, classic PS2 type of game design. And in some ways I can see how that's better. But there are a lot of times where Atsu will do something weird or not grab onto what I was wanting to, or the specific occasion that came up with Calvin, I was doing a mountain shrine, trying to get back to a lake that was beneath me. And I saw, there's these, I don't know if you've come across these rock sliding rubble areas where you can like slide down the rock.
Mm-hmm.
And I was doing like a branch platforming over that, but I saw the rock beneath me that fell off into the lake that was way down below where I was trying to get to. And I'm like, instead of spending 10 minutes climbing up the shrine to get down the way they want me to, why don't I just fall onto this rock and fall into the lake? And of course, as soon as I fall, respawns me back on the thing. And I'm just like,
it doesn't.
That's
and
really,
that breaks the immersion.
It's immersion breaking.
Like, that would totally work.
Yeah. So there's just things like that where the game is very, very rigidly designed.
Yeah. I don't know if you brought this one up at all, but there's two major things as far as kind of jank feel that really stood out to me. The one that you brought up earlier, Levi, was talking to people. Like, it's very specific on when you nuts. Can engage with them. It's like you have to be standing in the right spot at the right angle.
In the spot.
I've noticed that too. Like it gets really annoying.
And then I don't know.
The thing is, the camera and everything will slow down in a weird way where many times I've been like, oh, okay, it's already started. And then like nothing will happen. And I'm like, oh, and I have to like my Atsu is moving really slow and I have to slowly move around to the right spot and hit R2.
Yeah.
It's very weird.
So that's kind of janky and just feels not great.
Unpolished.
Another unpolished janky thing that I don't know if you guys ever noticed, for me, when climbing. So, you're climbing some cliff, you have your handholds that you follow.
Yeah.
There's points where, you'll follow the handholds and then there's a gap to the next handhold and you have to jump to that one. Most games, like almost every other game, if you're on a section of handholds to get from here to here, you can jump while across handholds. If you try to jump before the gap that you're supposed to jump, not only does it like,
if she does like a normal jump.
No. Like, it would be fine if like there was just no jumping until you actually had a gap you were supposed to jump and it just did nothing. But trying to jump when you're not supposed to, Atsu will actively stop and it'll freeze her there for like 2 or 3 seconds before you can start climbing normally again. And it frustrated me to no end. It was so bad. Yeah.
What I've had happen is if I don't jump at the exact right moment, she'll do like a weird normal jump and like jump backwards and then I'll just fall down. Because she won't like actually try to jump up.
And that's annoying too, because you're like,
I don't know if I had that, but yeah.
But like, again, it's like Aloy getting off the horse or whatever. And it's just like, why are these not polished animations from the first party studio? It is a little frustrating.
The one I'm talking about was so weird because it's like, just first of all, like every climbing mechanic in games now, you can jump to just go quicker. Like, that's kind of normal. But if they didn't do that and you just pressed X and nothing happened, that's forgivable. But having it freeze your character in place for like seconds,
having it actively slow you down.
Yeah, that was so frustrating.
Really frustrating.
And I think that's part of what we've been touching on with the whole, just like, if you want to make an intentional design decision to have things be restricted, okay, fine. But when you combine intentional design restriction with unpolished mechanics or animations, then it starts to feel sloppy and it starts
Yeah.
to create a pain point, I feel like, for me
Yeah.
personally, where it's just like, okay, Assassin's Creed, we bag on Assassin's Creed and Ubisoft all the time, but Assassin's Creed a decade ago had fluid, dynamic climbing systems where you could go anywhere, and they
Yeah.
built a game around it. And here we are with like Horizon Forbidden West and Yote, and it's so rigid and restrictive and wants you to do exactly what it wants you to do. And if you
Yep.
don't, it does some weird animation thing. It's just, it
and
doesn't
Breath of
feel
the
good.
Wild and Tears of the Kingdom do it all on a toaster. So like, you know.
Yeah, it's very interesting. And I'm not saying every game needs to be that, because it
Yeah.
does change the way you design
Yeah.
story content and what can be accessed.
Mhm.
But you have to, it just comes down to polish, I guess. I don't know. So I feel like we've been bagging on this one again too much. It is an 8 out of 10. I feel like with a lot of Sony first party games, we were just like pinnacle of industry. Like, these are the standard. And I think more accurately, Yote and Tsushima both should kind of be viewed as like, they have different strengths, but they both have weaknesses, just like an Assassin's Creed game.
Yeah.
Like, I just feel like they're kind of on par with these 8 out of 10, like, good comfort food experiences that are pretty good in some ways, kind of lacking and unpolished in certain ways. Like, that's more of the territory I feel like it exists in. And expectation is everything. So kind of bringing your expectations down to there, you can enjoy it more and take it for what it is. And
Yeah.
I'm glad that the main story is hitting, though, because if the main story were not hitting and the characters and the main path were feeling unpolished or bad writing alongside the rest of the game, I actually, like, there's a chance I wouldn't finish this game.
It does a
where
lot of
I've
heavy
gotten to.
lifting. Like it pulls you through the
But
game.
the story is really good, and because of that, if I do a couple, side activities or whatever, I'm kind of torn. I like the way that they have created so many systems for you to find side stuff. I love the little telescope that you have, or not. What would that be called? Just scope, spyglass, where you can like look out and mark stuff. NPCs will tell you about certain locations. I love the placing the map on your map. I don't know if you've done that yet,
cool.
Zach.
Yeah,
That's a cool little thing. Again, it feels a bit like there's too many systems. I do get that feeling, but I also kind of like each of the systems on their own. Like, I like that there's a bunch of different ways to find side stuff to go do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The bounties, I think, are a cool little addition, and getting to see Atsu, her bounty go up.
I really enjoyed the bounty
system
like that. and seeing your bounty around the world and seeing the price go up and all that was cool.
Yeah.
The quest card system, I'm not positive on. It feels kind of unintuitive to me and hard to read a little bit, but
I agree with that.
I don't remember what Tsushima's was like, so I can't really.
Yeah,
I just feel like, I guess my
spyglass, the cards is
the cards are a little weird. My final like wrap this up thought is just that I'm enjoying this. The main story is good, but I do just feel like Tsushima was better in its simplicity. Yeah. And I feel like they kind of added some more systems and more different things in this game, and all of the complexity doesn't make it better. I think when it was pared back and simple in Tsushima, the combat and everything really shined a lot better. And I guess that's kind of my.
And one of my biggest takeaways, I think, is that when it's all said and done,
Which is funny, because that's what I feel about Silksong and Hollow Knight too.
I love the world and the immersion that these games produce, but at the end of the day, it's the story, I think, that is the big hitter for me, and that's what I care about the most. Yeah. And I thoroughly enjoyed Yote's story, but to be specific, there's a side thing that you can do in the late game of Yote, where you basically you kind of find out what happened to Jin post Tsushima. You find out the rest of his story after the events of the game, and it's really cool. It's very well done.
Yeah.
But as part of that whole little side quest you can do, it does like this cinematic retelling of the story of Ghost of Tsushima and Jin's story. And as it was doing this cinematic thing, I was like, all I could think of was like, dang, that story was so much better. Like it was having that directly in the game and like directly
As the
highlighting all of this stuff from Tsushima. I was like, oh man, that made it obvious to me how much more I liked the story of Tsushima.
I'm keeping an open mind at this point because it has impressed me enough to where I'm like, maybe I could like this story as much as Jin's. Like, I'm not going to write that off the table. It is funny to me that it maybe feels like we're reliving Tsushima again without realizing it. You know, because Tsushima, I feel like was very similar. We played Tsushima and we were kind of like, it was a good game. It was an 8 out of 10. And then later upon reflecting, and we're like, man, you know what? Actually, I really loved Jin. I really loved being in that world. It grew in our estimation. And it almost feels like we're reliving that with Yote, where we're just like, it's not as good as Tsushima. It's all right. Whatever. But then thing, upon reflection, we'll be like, oh, you know what? Actually, Saito was a really good villain. And
the one thing
this character and this,
that all maybe
we'll do the exact same thing.
But the one thing that I don't know that Yote could ever overcome is the sequel nature and the anticipation and what should be the progress it didn't make. Yeah, I don't think it ever can overcome that. So
you got to let go of that at this point. It is what it is.
True,
but that's hard to do. It's hard to do. So
I mean, if this game teaches you one thing, it's never let go. You got to kill the OT6.
Never let go.
And
that's true. That's a good point. What would Atsu do, Calvin? She would never let go of the fact.
You haven't finished the story, so
that's true. Maybe
spoilers.
Maybe
she finds out revenge is bad. I really want her at the end to just be like, "Nah, I'm gonna get revenge. I like revenge. I think this is what I want."
That's the problem with the revenge story. Is like if you try and upend that too much, it's a little bit like, but I want to kill him.
That's what I'm saying. There's,
but I spent
it's a really well done. It is a very well done revenge story, but I feel like there is only so much you can do with a revenge story,
unless you bring in aliens. Yeah.
But I am very curious to hear your guys' thoughts when you finish it and see.
Well, Zach is gonna when we're January talking about December and November. Zach is gonna have thoughts about Yote, about the first half of the game.
I won't be in Act 3 yet, but I will have the first 2 acts done. Of the Yote 4.
Oh gosh! All right. Well, there we go. There we have it. There was September and October. We will be back at some undetermined time
in
to talk about
2026.
November and December. We'll probably end up doing the bundle again, but maybe we'll do 1 month at a time. Who knows? So
you never know.
It was nice taking some time to sit down and chat with you blokes. It's been we've all been really busy and pretty MIA and quiet on the chats. So
I know it's good to
it's getting harder to make time for the things.
To catch up.
Yeah.
Catch up and complain about these sequels. Back in my day, these original games were so much better.
You know what life is really about, which is complaining about video games. So.
Yep, that's what we'll always have at the end of the day. So.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you for joining us. If you did, and we'll catch you next time.
What if they didn't?
Was good. I forget what that was called.
I just don't like the big keyboards though.
That one was cool.
It's a BlackBerry problem.
It was that one kind of worked because it was like a physical keyboard and the screen slid up, and that one I kind of liked. It was like the Sidekick, maybe something like that.
Something like that. That was my first phone though.
I texted a couple of girls with my Sidekick. Oh my god, she texted back. She's not interested. This is so cool.
There goes 7 of my 50 messages this month.
Right. Yeah.
What a time.
Oh, you did start recording. Okay. I'm like, we should.
Did. Yeah.
Time is it?
Not early enough.
All right.